also will spend a little bit of time on NFL free agency. A former Chief in Hollywood Brown is now headed to the Philadelphia Eagles. Big trade in the AFC West earlier this morning. Jalen Waddle going to the Denver Broncos. They sent a bunch of picks. They swapped a fourth. The Broncos are absolutely in that win-now mode. I'm not sure they're going to care too much about picks, where for the better part of a decade, it was about stockpiling picks. They had the 30th overall selection in the first round. Miami, I'm going to get this out of the way, Miami's going to be really bad this year. Yes. Really, really bad.
Because they're going to be without talent, and they're going to be really bad cap situation.
Malik Willis gets the big contract, but he's been a backup the majority. It feels eerily similar to, without quite the same success, but the Matt Castle tenure in New England got to showcase himself as a backup. Then he started, and then somebody gave him a deal or went out and acquired him. Chiefs did get to the postseason though with Matt Castle.
When you hire you sign a quarterback and give him a big money contract, and he's still making take up less of your cap than the guy you hired this new guy to replace, you're in a problem.
Yes,
problem area.
I don't quite understand what the goal is for Miami, but hey, I'm sure they're okay with getting a lot of picks for Jalen Waddle because he was not going to be around on the next competitive Dolphins team. Denver, though, they fall one game short of the Super Bowl. They want to make sure that Bo Nix has a variety of weapons to be throwing to. So we will be talking about that in about 30 minutes or so. Then Frank Bowl will be joining us in studio. He'll be here from 3 to 4. Sam McDowell will be with us from 4 to 5. And then to close out the show today, we'll tell you what you need to know and get a fantastic interview done with Gary Parrish.
He's always great.
Always great. And there's never – you can go for – it feels like an hour with Gary Parrish, and you'll still be left going, man, that could have gone for 2 hours.
I had 5 more questions to ask.
Yes. He's so great, and he's, of course, going to have tons of fantastic coverage for March Madness. We know that the first 4 begins tonight. It will be UMBC, if you can remember them, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. The Retrievers were the first 16 seed to take down a 1 seed in the Virginia Cavaliers, and who knows? Maybe they have another one in store for us. But first things first, they got to get into the tournament.
Yeah.
And Dayton, Ohio is where it all begins.
And I know they're officially in, but it can't feel like the tournament unless you get to Thursday. You've got to be part of that, where you're in an arena and you're one of 8 teams at this particular spot, and they're playing all day. I wouldn't poo-poo. I mean, making the first 4 is better than not making the tournament. But I can't imagine it ever feels like, if you're a fan of that team, that it feels like you're actually in the tournament unless you're playing on Thursday or Friday.
It's not anywhere close to what it means to be in the wild card, but I do know there are some teams that go, when you're a wild card team and you lose, it's like, were you really in the playoffs? Well, yes, you were. In the first 4, I'm sure for teams that are fighting for a 16 seed spot, they did make the tournament. If you're 11 seed, I can see some pessimistic fans saying, nah, we didn't really. We were in the play-in game to get into the tournament.
And there are people who think that the play-in or the first 4 should just be the 16s.
Yeah. I'm the one I think everybody's looking forward to is Miami of Ohio versus SMU, just to see if Miami of Ohio is the real deal. Are they really the 31-1? And I will tell you, it's going to be a bad look for a lot of mid-major teams in those one-bid leagues if they go get smoked by SMU, who was mediocre this year in ACC play. They, in fact, had a couple of buzzer beaters that probably put them over the edge. So they were in the bubble all season long. They'll get Miami of Ohio, but that'll be tomorrow. Tonight it is UMBC and Hofstra, I believe, is the first 4 there. I'd have to go and double check. Howard. Okay. Yeah, I believe we actually have Texas and NC State tonight. So that should be another fun one as well. Missouri fans are familiar with the Longhorns this year. NC State, actually KU and NC State. NC State played earlier in the year.
And Texas, kind of a sleeper pick from a number of brackets to not only win tonight, but to knock off BYU in the first round and maybe even give Gonzaga a run. I know of at least one person who, I think it's actually Jay Billis. Jay Billis has Texas going to the Sweet 16. They have him getting by NC State, BYU, and Gonzaga before falling to Arizona. So he's taking a flyer.
That's a risk.
Jay Billis doesn't usually throw stuff at the wall. So
No.
Anything he thinks might happen, I'm like, okay, I'll give that some credence because he's got proof of purchase.
Well, we'll see later on in today's show if Gary Parrish feels the same way. If a double-digit seed like that, like Texas, can make a run to the Sweet 16. Okay, let's open up here with the World Baseball Classic. Again, tonight, 7 o'clock, first pitch, Team USA going for their first title since 2017. Venezuela going for their first title ever. U.S. is trying to keep pace with Japan. They have won 3 of these tournaments. That dates back to 2006. Dominican Republic has 1. This would, of course, put Team USA over the Dominican Republic, and Venezuela is looking to tie not only Team USA, but Team Dominican Republic. This has been such a wonderful thing for baseball. And I've heard, going into the tournament, Kurtis, I had heard a couple of people have some pushback that aren't really fans of it, but I can understand why, because really up until this year, it wasn't promoted like this. A big reason why is a lot of players that were American-born didn't really care about it. It was, I'd rather just build up in spring training. I'd rather make sure I'm ready to go for the regular season, where you have players from Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Mexico. They're all saying, this is our World Series. This matters to us. In fact, last night, Ronald Acuna Jr., who, yes, he did have the torn ACL when the Braves won the World Series, he said last night's win was the greatest accomplishment of his career. And you see this often with the Latin American players, of how fired up they get, how much this means to them. And here in the States, I mean, if you've got a team that was barely able to get star players onto the roster, I mean, most people on March 17th are going, I can't wait for opening day. If the U.S. wins, if they lose, I'm okay with it because we have a season to go and watch. And this was the first year that there was that emphasis, and especially from the player side, of I want to be out there. I want to go represent the U.S. of A. And Mark DeRosa did one heck of a job in this area, not so much of the overall rules and the tiebreaker, but recruiting great talent. Because in 2023, the U.S. did not have the firepower in their rotation to get past Japan. They ran out of arms at the end of it. They just didn't have what they have in 2026. And when you see that, and you see this environment, you saw the game on Sunday night against the Dominican Republic, how loud the crowd was, how much it meant to those players. This is why it's great for the sport, because baseball has always had a tough job promoting its sport. And if I'm an average fan, now I care more about baseball than anything else in terms of sports, but to the average fan, how do you get them to care? How do you get them to go and watch the sport? For a lot of people, it was get the pitch clock involved, right? Make the pace of play quicker. For some people, it was it's postseason baseball. In the same way that we say with hockey, like, I watch the Stanley Cup.
Playoffs are great. Yeah.
I don't watch any hockey in the regular season, but I will be absolutely sure to watch the postseason. A lot of people feel that way about baseball because it's hard to stay engaged for 162 games, and if your team's not good, you tune out rather quickly. And we've experienced some seasons like that in Kansas City before. This is one way, though, to get the casual fan saying, oh, now I do want to watch these players in the regular season.
Yes.
Because you have these stars that are emerging. You're seeing the emotion. You're seeing all these fans care about it and seeing these sold-out atmospheres. That's what makes baseball great, is it's global, right? The NFL is the most popular sport in America, and it's not popular in any of these other countries out there, aside from maybe a few.
It's grown despite...
Yes.
And the NFL probably has made more outreach to the world than any of the other major sports, partially because it's needed to. Baseball, their popularity around the country has just been kind of organic. It comes from the players. It isn't. Baseball hasn't reached out to the other countries have reached for baseball.
Yes.
The reason why baseball is popular in Dominican Republic isn't because of the major leagues necessarily, it's because that's where the players have come from.
Yeah, and you can factor in too. It's the climate in some of these countries. If it's 85 and 90 degrees,
right,
every single day, you're going to play sports that are meant to be played in warm weather. And when you have had a tournament like this, I understand for people that weren't interested in it to begin, but it is the Baseball Olympics. And see how fired up everybody got about USA versus Canada in hockey. Even if you're not a fan of hockey, you were invested in that game. You got invested into the players, where even if that was the only hockey you'll watch all year long, you were engaged with it. And baseball in the World Baseball Classic had a tough time early on because its first tournament was 2006. It's not like this thing's been around for 70, 80 years. And most of it was this, hey, send an American team, but who cares if they don't advance? We have the Major League Baseball season, where these other countries, it was, we've been waiting 3 years for our team to get another opportunity. And those players that come over and play in the MLB, they do care about this. And we like to think that the season is all they care about. If you are from the Dominican Republic and you go through spring training, hey, their focus, their everything should be what the Rays do this year or what the Yankees do this year. I'm not saying they don't care, but we can now acknowledge how important it is to these players in all kinds of countries. And it's even on the American side now, too. Aaron Judge said this atmosphere feels bigger than the World Series. This is Aaron Judge, a multiple-time MVP winner, said the atmosphere is bigger and better than the World Series. Mentioned Acuna. The greatest accomplishment of his professional career was beating Team Italy last night to get to the championship. Of course, if they win tonight, that would then take over. And then the top two moments would be from the WBC. You had Vinny Pasquantino and all of his comments about Team Italy being the Cinderella story and Jack Caglione and how much it meant to them. And Kike Hernandez, who had played for Puerto Rico a couple of times, said at times it just feels larger than the World Series. And most baseball fans can't wrap their mind around that because the World Series is everything.
Yeah.
Right? It is what your goal is.
And it's here all the time.
Yes. It's every single year.
The idea of USA, that's USA against USA when it's even if it's New York and LA.
And you see the environments and the atmospheres and how it does seem bigger than the World Series because we can be isolated to, well, it's the World Series, right? Everybody works to get to the major leagues, and that is the case here. But when you get to go and represent your country, you are handpicked to be on this team. You get to showcase why your country is the greatest for baseball. That's why you're seeing this emotion, and that's what you need for people to care. If it was this, oh, we lost, let's all go pat each other on the back, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. For some of these guys, they're not going to the regular season. This is their showcase to maybe get a contract. One of the great stories last night, Andres Machado, former Royal. He's throwing 98, 100 miles an hour with movement. He's not on a roster right now. But he got that opportunity to pitch in a game like that where now somebody's calling. Somebody's saying, well, if he can do that, we can work with that. So it's great for those players of, this is my showcase, this is my tryout, but also for the established players to say why it means so much to them. Because they grew up. Michael Garcia brought up a great point. I want to say Ronald Acuna Jr. did too in the postgame, that before I was playing in the MLB, I'm from Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela. This growing up to them was their World Series. Or I can't really say growing up because it was in 2006, but they were young back then. They were teenagers. They saw this happen. They saw what it meant to put on the jersey and go out there and win these games in front of their fans. Because we see the support they get. Tonight, here's the crazy thing. It's in Miami. It's in the United States. It'll be a road game for Team USA.
Yeah.
It was a road game against the Dominican Republic because when you're waiting 3 years, it's just different. And I'm hoping, Kurtis, that in 2029, there is that anticipation. There's that buildup of, from all countries, can't wait for this again. And it's going to matter what we do in pool play. It's not going to be this, oh, it's fun to watch, and if we lose, hey, it doesn't matter. This is just all fun and games.
This has been such a success that you hear people saying, can we do this every year or every 2 years? They want to speed up the clock to get this again because I was unprepared for how much I was engrossed by the action, particularly in the knockout stage. I didn't really follow much of it in the pool play, and I began to kind of fall into it when it was, will they advance? these games have been engrossing, and it's been amazing because I get it when it's the U.S., the Olympic dynamic takes a hold, and you're just rooting for USA. But last night, there was no USA. But every pitch, you're on your edge of your seat waiting to see what happens because it was a competitive game. And part of that comes from two things. One, it's players you're familiar with. When you're seeing players that you see in the major leagues all year, that helps. It also, those players are playing with an intensity that they wouldn't have in an all-star game. So the atmosphere is great. There's a lot at stake, and it's players that you're familiar with. It was a perfect storm the way this is played out. And tonight is going to be, the ultimate example of that. I don't remember a time when I will have gone into a Major League Baseball season more ready to see what happens. And part of that is because the Royals' young players have just been so dominant. I mean, even Avila last. I mean, that was a great moment. Everywhere, Michael Garcia, whatever it is, the big hit to put Venezuela. They're in the middle of every single major moment, seemingly, that we've seen in the past week or so. So that's helped a little bit. I'm not sure. Maybe other cities don't quite have that attraction because they're not watching so many of their players succeed on this national level and seemingly to take over the event. But I did not think I'd be as excited about this as I have been. The games are thoroughly engrossing, even more so, I think, than some of the playoff games last year. And I can't wait for this game to start tonight, and it'll be on every single pitch. And this is a wonderful event to lead into the regular season because most years, I mean, particularly when you live in a town that has 3 college basketball teams in the area, and you're coming off the Chiefs. Oh, yeah, it's baseball season. Let me get into baseball. Everyone who's in this town is into baseball already, and when opening day happens next week, they're ready to go, and they know a lot about their team, and they can't wait for it to start. And it's part of it is the Royals look like they're going to be pretty good. But part of it is we've seen so much, we've seen some legitimate, important success from these guys already in spring. We're usually just, so-and-so is hitting 440 in spring training. Let's wait till the regular season. This city is going to be so psyched for opening day. And I don't remember it happening like that for this type of reason.
No,
it has been a massive success. Whatever the WBC hoped it would be, I think they've probably gone past that with this year's tournament.
It's going to be tough to top it in 2029, but also it's not going to change the anticipation for it because of how good this has been.
And players who they're going to want to come back to do this because the players who hadn't done it before, hadn't thought about it, got here and went, "Wow, this is amazing." The feeling they get from it. I don't think I'm sure some of those players didn't expect that. Whoever's going to be around to be able to play in 29 is going to play because they're going to remember what this year. This is a transformational year for this event.
Well, what gets other players and fans invested into this tournament, this event? It's seeing the star players show the emotion. Yes. On the U.S. side. You never got to worry about it from the Dominican Republic or Venezuela or Puerto Rico. They're always fired up, no matter who the player is. You'll see Fernando Tatis and the bat flips and the dugout, pouring onto the field. You'll see Luis Severino yelling and stomping toward the dugout of the U.S., and now you get to see Aaron Judge bat flip and yell to the dugout. You see Gunnar Henderson scream to the dugout. When fans get to see that this means something to them, now I care. When you got, and I'm not saying you have to be this hair on fire type of personality. Bobby Witt Jr. is that to a T. He is more of a mild man, very stoic, and I've seen him get fired up. I've saw multiple videos in the Kyle Schwarber home run against Great Britain. He is the first one to leap over the dugout, pounding his chest, going up to Pete Crow Armstrong and Gunnar Henderson. That's because it matters to them. And to go in and represent the USA and have the jersey, it now is a bigger deal to them. And it's great with the Olympics coming up and everything, but they've knocked it out of the park. And
the energy is contagious.
It's
in any situation you're in. Positive energy is contagious. People feed off that stuff, and I think the players have fed off each other. That has spread to the stands. That spreads to people who are watching the game. I mean, you watched those two teams last night, man. It was like life and death.
Yeah.
Every play was 100% all out. There was no dog in it last night. And when the game was over, Venezuela was ecstatic, and Italy was clearly, I mean, that they really wanted that game. And it really means something to them that they're not going to be playing tonight. And you never find that in any other what you would technically call an exhibition. You know, something that doesn't matter to the actual standings of the team that pays your salary. Phenomenal what this week has done for not just this event, but for the popularity of baseball. I think this actually has helped, and I won't be surprised if the viewership numbers and the popularity of baseball takes a major jump this year because of what's happened this last week. A lot of people who maybe had become a little bit cold on baseball, I think probably rediscovered what initially made them like baseball this week. That's my hope, at least.
Oh, me too. And the other part to this as well is you're not human if you don't enjoy getting to root for a team like this. When are you ever get to see, I get to watch my team go from Bobby Witt Jr. to Bryce Harper to Aaron Judge to Kyle Schwarber to Gunnar Henderson. You're never going to get that again. In the All-Star game, you don't care. There's no stakes for it.
One, they don't play very long anyway.
No.
They're usually in for a couple of at-bats, and they're done.
They're out of the game at that point. And I remember, because I've never been the type of fan where, your team gets eliminated and now you're invested in some other team. I don't get the same anxiety from it. I don't get the same intensity from it. I will say that on Sunday night in the 9th inning with Mason Miller on the mound and Geraldo Perdomo at the plate, 3-2, I was as anxious as I am for a Royals moment like that.
Yeah.
That's how into it's brought everybody of...
That's the most anxious I've been since the last time they were in the postseason.
And the crowd's getting into it, and you're thinking, man, I don't want this to end. Yeah.
Don't groove one. Don't throw one past. Because there were a couple where you kind of had to go out and get it, and you're like, oh, come on. Don't blow this. And you get that last strike, and you're just like, yeah.
Yes. No, it was an audible yell when that happened, even though it was not a strike. But, hey, we'll move past that point.
Right.
And tonight, I'm fingers crossed. I mean, look, Italy and Vinny Pasquantino and Jack Caglione, everybody involved, Francisco Cervelli, they had a tremendous run. They were the only undefeated team left going into last night. What I can say is this, though, too. I wasn't ultimately disappointed that we didn't get Italy versus U.S. round 2, and here's why. It was well known in that game that Italy was going to max out. They were going to put all of their bullets into this game to get to the finals. They'd even said about 5th or 6th inning, because they'd used Nola and Michael Lorenzen, that it was going to be a bullpen game in the championship if they got there. If Italy got there, I'd be as excited as I am right now, but it's a different layer that Eduardo Rodriguez is throwing tonight for Venezuela. They're going to have their full assortment of players. They're going to have the crowd show up, and the U.S. is going to have the same there. This is next to Team DR versus Team USA in the championship, or Team USA and Team Japan. This is what I would have wanted to see.
Yeah.
And not to mention, you get Salvador Perez and Michael Garcia, and Luinder Avila, who did look great last night as well. To see that on this stage, it's promoting the Royals, it's promoting baseball, it's awesome. And the last thing I do want to touch on before we hit our first break, the postgame. Garcia is the one that's at the podium with the Fox guys, Derek Jeter, A-Rod, David Ortiz, and I want to say it was Burkhart, too.
Yes, Kevin Burkhart.
Yeah, Kevin Burkhart was there, too.
Who I think looks like he could be Brian Haney's older brother.
I thought the same exact thing.
Every time I see him, I think, that looks like older Haney.
Yes, and he gets asked this question that's gone a bit viral. I thought it was taken not necessarily out of context. It went a bit too far. Derek Jeter, you heard it in the opening intro there, saying, look around you. Is this compared to anything in Kansas City? And Garcia said, not even close. I saw some Royals fans go, ouch, that hurts, right? He's saying that we don't have a good crowd. A lot of people went, I hate Derek Jeter for asking that question, because why would you tie in Kansas City to an atmosphere that very clearly has not happened while Michael Garcia has been there? I get he played in the ALDS against the Yankees, but I'm also going to echo
It
this.
wasn't like that.
No.
It wasn't like it was that night.
And I'm going to go on record in saying they will not play in an atmosphere, an environment like that. And maybe nobody in baseball will the rest of the way. It's just different when you have Venezuelan fans, Dominican Republic fans, Mexico fans. It is not if you watch a postseason game in baseball, it's 40 degrees, it's cold, people are bundled up. They're loud as hell. Don't get me wrong. That last night was probably the loudest environment he's ever played in before.
Yeah.
So did he need to say not even close? No, but I don't care about that because it's probably the reality.
Well, you mentioned Aaron Judge, who plays in New
World
York
Series
and has
in
played
LA,
in the
New
World
York.
Series. Went, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
I mean, it's pitch by pitch. And in the Dominican Republic game, it was the first inning. The noise of the crowd when Severino would get 2 strikes. He did so on Bobby. He did so on Harper. He did so on Judge. I mean, maybe they just don't mute the crowd noise like they do on Fox and ESPN when you're watching on TV. They always find a way to turn it down a little bit. That's as loud as I've heard a baseball game in I don't know how long. There's just a different roar every single time something big happens. And tonight, it will be no different.
If Derek Jeter had just said, have you ever been in an atmosphere like this? I mean, the essence of the question he asked was fine. The fact that he says, have you been like this in Kansas City? He did, but the reason why he said Kansas City is because that's where Michael Garcia plays.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he was asking the question, have you ever seen anything like this before? Mm-hmm. And the reference point is that he plays in Kansas City. I didn't really have as big a problem with it as any. I didn't really have much of a problem at all with it.
No.
The fact that it came from a New York guy.
That's why.
mentioning Kansas City. I mean, we are a territorial lot. So I understand. I mean, I don't think anybody's wrong for being bothered by it. I just wasn't because I knew what his point was.
I knew.
And Garcia's answer, I think, alluded to the fact that that's what the question was, and. It's just said 2 words that people didn't want to hear.
I mean, the way the Royals have been covered in this tournament compared to previous years is night and day. They are almost seeking out Royals players to bring on, like Ronald Acuna had a good game.
It to,
yeah, and they pick Garcia.
Yep.
And Bobby Witt Jr. has been on the panel. Jack Caglione and Vinny Pasquantino have been on the panel before. They've talked about Seth Lugo before when Team Puerto Rico was still in it. We've gone from Salvador Perez and the home run derby hitting 700,000 home runs, and they can't stop talking to Pete Alonso about Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
That's what we've gone from to this where it's find the Royals player and bring him on the podium or the panel. Look, it can be, you can not like the question, you can not like Derek Jeter. Maybe you're mad at Garcia for his answer. The reality is of this, that those environments, everybody's playing. It'd be one thing if everybody's saying, no, this comes not even close to the World Series. I've been at Yankee Stadium, and it's twice as loud as this. Star players that have been in the World Series, Garcia has not, and have been in some of those massive stadiums. Dodger Stadium is the biggest in all of baseball. Aaron Judge has played in it. Kike Hernandez, who said it just has a bigger feel than the World Series. He played multiple home postseason games for the Dodgers. Still would say atmosphere is better here. It's different when you have country versus country. There's the build-up, the anticipation for 3 years. There are flags flying around in the bleachers. There's people that are standing on chairs and they're jumping up and down. Those camera wide shots of, like last night, Acuna beating out the ground ball to tie the game. The shot from the third base dugout and what the crowd looks like, you don't see that even in the postseason, unless it's a walk-off in Game 7, or like George Springer against Seattle in Game 7 of the ALCS. This is for the 7th inning beating out the ground ball to tie the game. And then Garcia, he almost looked like he hit a walk-off in the World Series. He's pointing to the dugout. He gets over. He's pounding his chest. That's why this is great. And if you don't enjoy it, I don't. Maybe you just don't like bat flips and craziness. But hey, I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan.
Yeah, if that didn't put some, if you weren't inspired or moved by what's been happening in the last few days in this event, then I don't see, like you don't have to, but I have to question how much you actually like sports.
It's been just an absolute
because
thrill.
The whole point of sports is the kind of drama that we've had the last few nights. It's walking into an event and saying, I don't know what's going to happen, and there's a chance it might be amazing.
Yep.
And then it's amazing. I mean, if that doesn't, why do you follow any sport if you aren't moved by what happened last night?
No, I would understand it, but hey, I will always say, and I want to say Sterling Holmes says this, I'll never tell a fan how to be a fan, or I won't tell you how to fan. If you don't want to watch tonight, well, I guess I can't force you to, but tonight, the championship game, Team Venezuela, Team USA. The U.S. is going for their first title since 2017. Venezuela going for their first title ever in the World Baseball Classic. We'll take our first break of the show. When we come back, we'll talk some NFL free agency on the program. Back here on the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Seren Petro. He's back tomorrow, but Kurtis, Kyle, and I will have you up until 6. First 4 action tonight, the World Baseball Classic. We just talked about that in the opening monologue. And by the way, the lineup has been released. For the final time, here is Team USA's lineup. Leading off at short, Bobby Witt Jr. Batting second, playing first base, Bryce Harper. Batting third in right field, Aaron Judge. Hitting cleanup and DHing, Kyle Schwarber. Hitting fifth and playing third, Alex Bregman. Batting sixth and playing left, Roman Anthony. Batting seventh and catching, Will Smith. Batting eighth and playing second, Bryce Terang. And rounding it out, hitting ninth, Byron Buxton. Gunnar Henderson not in the lineup. Pete Crow Armstrong not in the lineup. And Cal Raleigh, who has had a uncharacteristically bad, he's hitless in the World Baseball Classic.
And handshakeless.
And handshakeless. Did not shake Randy Arozarena's hand. Became a big deal. Randy was not happy about it.
Yeah, but did you see the Savannah Bananas kind of
did
an ape
then hug
of that? That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
By the way, the money line on this USA minus 265, Venezuela plus 215. So decent favorite tonight.
They should be, too. The reason, too, the Gunnar Henderson, who has been on fire in this tournament, Pete Crow Armstrong, he's not in there in Raleigh, as we said. All lefties, and Eduardo Rodriguez is throwing for Venezuela, a lefty. I'm sure things will change if they are to bring in a right-hander. What I loved about Team DR, I'm not sure there's anybody in the bullpen that throws under 95. I mean, everybody is 97 to 99 with ridiculous movement.
And it's every time I'm seeing even beyond that. The number of guys in the majors who just hit triple digits like they're just
like it's nothing.
Like they're just walking down the street is amazing. I mean, Mason Miller is obviously you like how
it looks so smooth too.
Yeah,
you see some guys max out. Oh my gosh! I mean, it's so smooth out of the hand at 102 to 104. We'll see if he's out there tonight. I'm not sure if he's available. I don't believe Bednar is going to be available, and he's been just so solid in some of those high-leverage moments. 7 o'clock again, the first pitch for the championship of the World Baseball Classic. Do you want to talk some NFL here before we have Frank Bowl in studio? Some headlines from around the league. Former Chief Hollywood Brown signed a 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles worth $6.5 million. And the big blockbuster of this morning, Dolphins trading Jalen Waddle to the Denver Broncos for draft picks, including their 2026 first-rounder. So it was a first, a third, and a swap of fourths for Miami. And, of course, the Broncos, who are going all in, they bring in another wide receiver to add to Cortland Sutton and a variety of weapons on the outside for Bo Nix. I will say that, being a Kansas City radio station, this is a really good move for Denver. We've seen the Chiefs not really make moves like this when they were always picking 31st and 32nd. Yeah. This is the right move for Denver.
It's the right move for them this year, maybe the next couple of years, but a team with a second year will now have a third-year quarterback. Is that a team that you think needs to be all in, or should they be trying to extend the window for Bo Nix? I can see why it's a happy. I'm sure they're Bronco fans that are ecstatic.
Yeah.
But I look at it and I think, guy's not, your quarterback's not 30. I can see why a team who's maybe only has a few years left, they think, or 4 or 5 years left, a team like the Chiefs might be maybe making a move like that if they had the cap space. But I'm a little puzzled by the Broncos. If their idea is we got to win now, or we got to win in the next 2 years. Your quarterback's not young, but he's going into his third year. I'm not convinced this is in the end going to be a great move for the Broncos. But hey, man, if they gets them to a Super Bowl, flags fly forever, and their odds of doing that this year got better. So we'll see.
I think it has to be.
Pressure's on now, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And the pressure was going to be on whether they traded for Jalen Waddle or not. To me, what everybody in the AFC West is going to try to showcase in this upcoming year is that it's not a fluke, that we didn't just finally get Kansas City when they were banged up, dealt with the Rashee Rice suspension. Patrick Mahomes didn't play in the final 4 to 5 games of the season. Travis Kelce became the main target at 36, 37 years old. The defense had its issues. Like, this to me is Denver saying, we won the division last year. If Bo Nix didn't get hurt against Buffalo in the divisional round, we would have been in the Super Bowl against Seattle. I wouldn't have picked them to win, but you still would have been AFC champions. Yeah. Something that hasn't happened many times since Patrick Mahomes took over. Only New England and Cincinnati had been the teams to be AFC champions. Denver could have done that. And I'm sure there will be a lot of people still picking them, depending on what happens in the draft, to win the division again. And this, to me, is signaling, if we want to make sure that Kansas City is not going to reclaim the crown after 1 year, we got to make sure we're as aggressive as them. Because I believe that signing of Kenneth Walker. Now, I was gone all of last week, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it when it was happening. That, to me, showed that the Chiefs are going to make sure that the years of, well, it's a slow start, they'll be fine. We can win all these one-score games. We can start off 3-4 because we'll finish a 12-5, right? Those days are going to be behind us. Our goal, whether Patrick Mahomes is already week 1 or not, our goal is to get out hot, be 4-1, 5-0, and you're always looking up at us in the division.
And the best way to do that is to build a badass offense. Mm-hmm. And I think they believe that when you bring in a new offensive coordinator and 2 other new offensive coaches, and DeMarco Murray and Chris O'Shea, I think it is. Chad O'Shea. I went to Chad or Chris? Chad O'Shea. And you make the move for Walker. Clearly, you're like, okay, the offense needs to get better.
Yeah.
And I think the Broncos probably looked at that and went, okay,
yeah,
we can't come back, standing pat. We need to make a move. I just think that if you're going to make a trade like that, you need to strike while you've got that guy, or else, the window seemed to me to be more open longer.
Yeah.
So it's I'm not saying it's a bad move, but I don't know that it's a slam dunk that it's a great move, because, again, they're just kind of starting out. This feels like a move that a team makes this feels like a move Buffalo makes.
Yeah,
a team that's got an All-Pro quarterback and future Hall of Fame quarterback, and they just need to find one more thing. And Buffalo has made moves like that in this free agency. This seems like more like a move they would need to make.
And I wonder, too, how much of not that Denver would care about what Dan Campbell's saying, but it's never really left my mind. It's been burned into my memory since it happened, when Detroit lost in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game, the year the Chiefs beat the Niners for the second time in the Super Bowl. And, the expectation is when you get to the press conference, all the media members talk about, it was such a great run, right? Remember in Jacksonville with Liam Cohen, it was almost this praise of like, you'll be back, you'll be fine. And I loved hearing Dan Campbell say, well, that might have been our only shot.
Yeah.
Because it's realistic, and the Lions have not been
like
close.
It might have been.
It might have been. And that was a team back then.
Sometimes you only get one chance.
That looked like maybe not the young and upcoming Chiefs of 18, but my goodness, were they explosive. And they looked like a bear going into the postseason. They were dominating the Niners for that game, and it didn't work out. Denver had Jarrett Stidham starting in that game, but they held New England's offense down for the entirety of that game and couldn't get one lasting drive, aside from one, and that was because of a turnover that New England had. If I'm Sean Payton and I look at the division, which now is light years different than it was 5 to 6 years ago, you still are going to have the Chiefs to worry about. You're going to have the Chargers. Raiders are in full rebuild mode. We know about that. But you want to make sure that it's not that was a great year, but we just want to get back to the postseason. No, if I'm in Denver, I'm saying we got to get back to that spot this year. Is Jalen Waddle the guy that does it? He helps. I am on board with you where that if it doesn't work out and guys regress and Bo Nix isn't as good and the defense isn't as good and the Chiefs reclaim the throne in the AFC West, now it's a move of, oh boy, we gave up basically our day 1 and day 2 picks. Yeah. They did swap the 4th to move up from 30th to 11th, I want to say it was. So that's a nice pick, but you lose your 1st and your 3rd. Yeah. And those could have been
kind of in the wash.
Controllable players. Now, we'll see what Miami does with those picks. I know we did the same thing with Frank Clark when he was acquired. It's like, let's follow the career of what those guys do in Seattle. I don't believe they ended up doing much. And maybe that will be the case. This, to me, though, is that move where Denver's saying, we're not just disappearing. The one-score games, that is something we're going to watch in the same way we did for Kansas City.
That's how you make fewer one-score games by improving on offense. And I to play devil's advocate to some extent and push back on the point I just made, this could be a tacit admission by the Broncos that Bo Nix is limited.
Yeah.
And he's going to need, the window's open, but this isn't the same thing as the window being open for Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. This guy's going to need a supporting cast, and we're going to open that window with that supporting cast as soon as we possibly can. While he's at his youngest, he's at his least expensive. We're going to try to get some stuff done now while he's on his first contract. So from that standpoint, it might be a great move.
Yeah, and I will always say this, that the great organizations out there understand who their quarterback is and what it takes for them to be successful. The last thing you want to do is look at a quarterback who's really good, but not a top 3 quarterback in this league and say, well, he is a top 3 quarterback in this league. He can make others around him better.
Yeah.
And we've seen that before.
Yep.
We've seen teams just sort of neglect other parts of the team because they say, well, he'll make it work. He can make it work with anybody. Bo Nix has absolutely exceeded what I ever thought would be possible coming out of the draft. He was a great pick for the Broncos, but I'm not putting him in the same category as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow when healthy. I can't do that just yet. He was great in the postseason this past year before he got hurt. He beat Buffalo. That's a feather in the cap.
He was the 12th pick. He wasn't the 30th.
No, yeah,
pick.
He was a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
But this is a move that Denver is kind of signaling, hey, let's make sure we're not putting immense pressure on a year where Denver is going to have a ton of pressure. Not to mention, what do they have? The first place schedule.
Yep.
Now, the Chiefs' third place schedule is still pretty brutal
I know,
when you look at it, too.
Wrong year to finish third because a lot of the other teams that are powers, you're like, well, I'm still looking at the freaking that team again. Seriously?
Yeah.
We have third place schedule. We're still playing you.
Yeah, but it will be a step up for the Denver Broncos this year. They do make the blockbuster trade this morning for Jalen Waddle. Also, not that we needed to touch too much on it, Hollywood Brown going to Philadelphia. It was not a good year for him in Kansas City. We'll see if he'll find himself again with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. We'll take a quick break, come back, wrap up hour number 1 of the program. wrapping up hour number 1 of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I am your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Soren Petro for the final time this week. Curtis Seaboldt here, Kyle Collier as well.
Not for the final time this week.
Am I filling in again?
Us.
Oh, yeah, not for you guys.
We'll be back tomorrow.
I was like, oh, throwing things at me left and right. We will have Frank Bull coming up in studio to begin hour number 2. Then we'll have Sam McDowell in the 4 o'clock hour. And we'll have Gary Parrish in the 5 o'clock hour. Much better job today laying out the show because we were flying blind. We were letting you fly blind.
Yeah, but you were so bad at it yesterday, I almost wasn't going to come in.
Yeah. No, I was like, we can't do this again. If you don't know what you're talking about, I'm not going to know what I'm talking about. So, I can understand why it was a little bit more important in this go-around. Frank Bull coming up next.
All right, what school has the most first-round losses as the number 4 seed? Brought to you by La Feta Delicatessen.
Hour number 2 of the program begins with Frank Bowl in studio. It's my favorite thing to do when filling in. Round tables.
There you
Especially
are.
with you, Frank.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good being with you, Jack. Yeah.
Yeah, it always works out when I get to hop on a Tuesday
Yeah.
here. And what better way, too, with March Madness, the World Baseball Classic, NFL free agency. Mm-hmm. I doubt we'll touch on any NBA in this segment today. Nothing pressing. Nothing pressing.
I don't think I've ever been in here we never touched on the NBA.
Well, then we're not going to throw it
what
at
do you think about
don't need
the
to.
Nets?
Yeah. You know, we forget about that team that they promised us at
Yeah.
Sprint Center to be the,
Yeah.
Maybe the only thing
the
we
host
would.
team.
They changed names of the center before the NBA team ever came here.
That's right.
The only NBA related question we'd ask you is who's going number 1, and that ties in here locally.
Yeah, that's true.
That might be the extent of what we got here. We talked about you filling out a bracket.
Yeah.
We've all filled out a bracket, and we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about KU seeding. We spent some time talking about Mizzou, their 10 seed in St. Louis, our dark horses. But you're exactly right when we were speaking about this off air. Us radio folk, us sports folk, go chalk too many times because it's just easy to go. My Final Four is all 1 seeds. And in years past, I'd say that's stupid to do. That's just not realistic.
Yeah,
We haven't
I
had
got
it too many times. Then you've seen the last couple of years where so many 1 seeds are getting there because they're that dominant. I don't know how I could pick against Arizona.
Yeah.
I don't know how I can pick against Florida. Duke, surprisingly, considering their injuries, is the only one I'm up in the air about. And their region is filled with a bunch of blue blood coaches. That could run into an issue there.
It's
Still,
players. It's not coaches.
yeah, I guess. But I would say that these 1 seeds, though, they are the true alphas right now in the tournament. Some years it's you get a 1 seed who dominated a weaker conference. You get somebody who still has 5 or 6 losses. All of these teams barely lost at all this year. And they have the players, right, that we're talking about here, star-level players, NBA talent. And for some of these teams, it just matches up so well. That's why I went chalk. I'm boring. I don't have too many upsets in my bracket. Last year I did, and it didn't work out that way. There were very few upsets that truly happened. Is there any upset so far that you like, or are you more so looking at these 1 seeds?
You know, you can go through the beginning of the bracket and sort of pick stuff out. But when you get right down to it, you're down to, your Elite 8. I've got Duke and Louisville with Duke winning. I've got Florida and Houston, but I've got Houston beating Florida. So I've got Houston going to the Final Four. I've got Duke going to the Final Four. The other one, I've got Arizona and Gonzaga, and Arizona going to the Final Four. And then Michigan and Iowa State. And I've got Iowa State going to the Final Four over Michigan.
That's a popular pick, too, because Iowa State
As do
seemed
I,
very...
Frank.
Yeah.
Huh?
Kyle's got Iowa State.
I've got
There
Iowa
you
State
go,
there as
yeah.
well.
Same.
And so that would give me 3 Big 12 teams in the Final Four.
Houston's going to be in Houston, too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they're really good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, they're really that's a good and a great coach. I mean, he's an awesome
Yeah.
coach. I think he's terrific.
I generally start out trying to I'll have teams that I think might go, and then I'm like, all right, I don't want too many ones. I don't want too many teams from one conference.
Yeah, right.
What's the best way that I can put together a Final Four where I don't look like I'm doing this? Because if you just went through each game by game by game, you're like, oh crap, I have 4 1s and I have whatever. That's why I have Duke, Michigan State in the East with Duke winning. I have Florida, Illinois in the South
That's
with
good.
Illinois
That's good pick.
winning. Because they're such a good offensive team. When they can play some defense, the only issue is they don't hit free throws very well. But that's one of the best offensive. I trust offense a lot more as a driver in the tournament than defense. Arizona, Purdue, with Arizona getting, and then Michigan State, Iowa State with Iowa State in. So to make sure I don't have 3 teams from one conference, and I don't have 3 number 1 seeds. So I go 1, 3, 2, 1, and it's an ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Big 12.
This is going to be slightly off topic of the teams we've been discussing. This came across my Twitter feed yesterday, and I talked to Kurtis about this. Hawaii getting Arkansas. Arkansas seems to be a lot of people's darling because of Darius Acuff, Billy Richmond, Trevon Brazile, the former Mizzou Tiger, and John Calipari, getting them to the Sweet 16 last year, led by double digits with under 5 to go against Texas Tech. Then they collapsed. They have a better team this year. What I wanted to discuss, that I don't know if you know this just yet, Hawaii. They're not ranked very highly in KenPom, but I saw this tweet where their starting five is, I believe it goes 6'3", 6'5", 6'6", 6'8", 7 foot. Or maybe it's 6'3", 6'6", 6'8", 7 foot. What I'm trying to get at here, they're incredibly long, they're incredibly tall, and they have this unique defense. So if you're into picking upsets, I doubt it's going to be against Arkansas, but I want to say they don't switch anything. Like, they have this unique no switching and drop defense that has led to a lot of fast break and transition. I don't know if that's really going to work against Arkansas, who might be one of the faster teams in the country. But when you're picking upsets, Frank, do you look for little nuggets like that where it's this random size of a team we've probably not watched one game of all season long? Is it a team like High Point that can score better than a lot of teams out there? Or is it the teams that are so slow where they want to get into these 55 to 58 games, they take 25, 28 seconds off the shot clock and get a great look? I thought last year that was Drake. Drake was a team with Ben McCollum who wanted to slow everything down. Missouri was incredibly athletic, incredibly quick, and way more physical, it seemed on paper, than Drake, but they'd rebound, get the one and done. They didn't have a lot of size, and they just slowed the tempo down. Is that how you pick your upsets, is more so the unique style, or is it really is a coin flip? It's a random thing that happens, and there's really no perfect science to it.
Yeah, I hate picking the teams like you're talking about High Point. Now, I think let's go years past. Let's go before NIL and before transfer portal. Okay, let's go back a few years. You would normally look at the conference, then at the team, and just go, like, say, High Point back in those days.
Yeah.
Maybe they won their conference. They're coming in, no chance. You got no chance against whomever you're going to start. Who's High Point starting with?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, you have no chance against
one of the
Wisconsin
highest scoring
back in
teams
those
in the
days.
country.
Okay, you just go, there's just no way. Now, a couple of those High Point guys might have played for Wisconsin, okay, and the whole thing. So you really have to, I think it's harder than ever to pick the NCAA tournament now. Although the rich always get richer because they have more money with the NIL to be able to pay these great players from these other schools, from these conferences, like, kid coming from St. Bonaventure. Yeah. Oh, who we got there? You know what I mean? Just one of those. From St. Bonaventure? What was he doing there? Well, St. Bonaventure gave him, $500,000. Now Kansas is going to give him $2 million. So it's just one of those things, too. So I think it's harder than ever to pick that because we don't know who High Point has on the team and where they're from. Yep. Okay? You don't know Hawaii. Where have those kids come from, and who they play for, and who's the coach, and has he been successful in the past? Is it just the kids, or is it the kids and the coach? Because when was the last time Hawaii was in the tournament?
I was thinking the same thing.
I don't have a slice idea last time Hawaii was in the tournament. So it's just one of those things where teams now can change so quickly year to year. You can have a team that's at the bottom half of your conference, and all of a sudden they bring in 2 or 3 transfer kids out of the portal, and the next thing you know, they're winning a conference and winning the conference tournament and going in as a top 4 seed in the NCAA. So it's a big deal.
Rarely, I think, do those upsets happen because of a factor that you could have seen before. I think sometimes it's just one team hits shots, the other team doesn't, and some team gets on a run. I think it's almost impossible to look at it and go, well, this is the stat or this is the matchup that this team can struggle with. That's why I think that's going to happen. I've seen many times someone says, this is a bad matchup for this 5 seed, this 12 seed. They can do this, and they struggle with this, and then the 5 seed wins by 15.
Yeah.
It's those things to me, are almost never predictable. You can predict that something's going to happen. There have been a few things you're like, boy, that team looks sharp, or they're really playing hot. But that's about all I think I've ever been able to put into something that seems to have any kind of reliance is direction of the team.
Yeah.
A 5 seed, which is a Power 5 team that maybe is sliding a little bit. A 12 seed who's been won 14 straight and they won their conference tournament or whatever, and they're up there. I might look at that, but matchups to me are almost impossible because even between teams that are good, a lot about, what's a better matchup or a worse matchup for a team that struggles scoring? Is it a team that has a great defense, or is it a team that can score enough points where you can't get to it? It's really hard to determine because there have been examples where that's been each one of those matchups has been a problem. It's just how the game plays out, and there's so many elements that are involved with that. Like I look at Missouri and Purdue, and I think if Missouri gets past Miami, Purdue is such a good offensive team. They're just I could just see them just destroying Missouri. But is that the worst team, or would it be a team that can really lock down and take away everyone, and
like Houston,
and can pressure you and can get you into making mistakes, and you can't score enough points? So I don't think there are any solid gold. Well, if this and this meet, this wins.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't think there's any of that. And I always like defensive teams that are highly rated defensive teams. Good basketball teams with good conferences that have great defenses. And I think Houston, Arizona, and Duke, Iowa State, okay, yeah, they're a pretty good defensive team as well. They both have had tremendous competition all year long. That's a big deal to me because a Cinderella team is Cinderella because we're going to do this just before midnight. Okay, we're going to get this game in early. We're going to upset somebody. When a 16s beat a 1, they had a night. They're not going anywhere after that night, but they had a night, and that's where you get, because those teams rarely advance.
Yeah,
and keep on going.
Second round is after once you get to that first weekend.
Yeah,
teams double-digit seeds who get to the Elite Eight or
like
the Sweet 16 rarely go any further than that. There have been a couple of teams, but for the most part, that's where you can't win that many games in succession against really good teams. I generally like to favor teams that are good offensively because they can win really any kind of game. If they play a defensive team, they've got enough players to overcome it maybe, and if they get into an offensive, they're never. At some point, you might find yourself down 10.
Yeah.
No matter who, and can you come back from that? That's what worries me about Kansas is if they get down 10 to somebody, can they come back from 10? They did it once earlier against TCU at home, but a team like Iowa State who can score at will, teams like Arizona, if they have any kind of issue, they've got the offensive players to dig themselves out. They can win a game in any range. A team that just relies too much on defense really can only win a game, to me, a lower score. It's hard for them to win a game up in the 70s and 80s.
Right. That's why I like a highly rated team that's good defensively.
Yeah.
Because they can, again, like you said, Kurtis, they can win it either way.
Yeah.
So.
And the fear I have, I think I mentioned this about Illinois. It's actually Iowa State I was referring to. They have a really good offense, obviously. They have very good defense. The problem is they don't shoot free throws very well, and you kind of wonder in a close game, is that going to trip them up? But I think they've been greatly undervalued, not by the committee. They're a 2, but that's one of those teams. They were a 5 seed in their own conference tournament.
Yeah,
they're a 2 seed in the NCAA. That's kind of I think that's an indication of just how strong that team is.
My team, I'd really like to see do well, just because I like the coach and the fact that they've never won an NCAA tournament game is Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred Hoiberg has done. That's incredible.
Tremendous job
he's done there. Last time they were even, was it Danny Nee? When was the last time they were in, Kurtis? It's been a while, isn't it?
Might have been. I'll look.
But they've never won a tournament game. Hoiberg was always one of my favorites, even though he played for Iowa State in those days. But he was always one of my favorite college basketball players. I just loved the way he played. And, both ends of the court. He could score. He could play defense. He could do it all. And I think he's imparted that knowledge to those kids from Nebraska and has done a heck of a job. So I'd love to see them get in, win at least a game, and just go from there. So I have them going to the second round. I forget.
They've got
Troy.
That's right.
They're 13.5.
And then I have them getting beat by Vandy.
It's one of those things too, which is the tough part about the tournament. Of Nebraska's been such a phenomenal story all season long, and they've just had this hanging over their head that they've never won a tournament game, and they were top 10 at one point. They were competing with Michigan, and they were competing with Purdue and Michigan State. They had all these close games. Illinois, they had knocked off in Champaign, and now you look at this game, and it's the downside of the tournament of if they do lose, what it erases, what they were able to accomplish all season long. And are you one of those people, Frank, where when you've got these teams that had extraordinary regular seasons. I'm not saying Nebraska's was extraordinary. It was very good by their standard. Take Arizona, for example, who has lost twice this year. They started 23-0. Toughest conference in college basketball. They run away with it. They win in Kansas City. If they lose in the round of 32 or the Sweet 16, are you one of the people watching this sport saying, well, I mean, this team will largely be forgotten because of how it ended? Or are you the give it time, give it a year or two, because that was a team still that was the best in college basketball, and one night, one day, they just didn't have it for all 40 minutes, and that brought their season to an end? It's tough because here locally, I'd imagine that's how Kansas fans feel a lot, where there were some really good teams that dominated in Big 12, won in Kansas City, dominated in the first weekend, would lose in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and they're nowhere near as remembered or revered as 2022, 2008, 2012, even though in 12 they lost to Kentucky. It's that if you don't win it all, you're just not as remembered, and you'll be seen as that team that choked when it mattered most. Do you look at it that way, or is it a, hey, they still won 30 freaking games in one of the toughest schedules we've seen in a long, long time?
Yeah, I think they'll get crucified. Only because of the day and age.
Yeah.
Okay, my starting center makes $3 million a year. This guy makes $2 million. What are you doing? How could you possibly lose to that team that you make more money than their entire budget for their basketball team? Okay, so what are you doing? And I think that's the way it's going to be. Who was it, Dickinson? Today, everybody's talking about Dickinson and his deal about the Kansas fans and all that sort of stuff. Oh, they're mean to me. I don't care. How much were you getting paid? Those kids are paid to go to school. The alumni had paid to go there. Now all of a sudden you're a pro. As far as they're concerned, you're a professional player. A lot of these kids don't go to class. Sorry, they just don't. And so they're there to play basketball. So if you're number one overall seed or you're a number one seed and you've got $10, $12, $15 million laid out to pay your college basketball team, you better perform in the postseason.
Well, what's interesting about it, too, when it comes to the Dickinson comments that were posted today, I can't remember what podcast he was on, but in saying, at times it felt like a job. I wasn't even looking forward to the games.
It is a job.
What has been amazing to me is that it's just because social media nowadays, we're seeing more of this, of players saying, I get messages. And I'm not saying that I don't advocate for anybody getting hateful and terrible messages towards a college athlete. They're playing a game at the end of the day. But what I will always say is this. This is not new. This has happened in sports forever.
Oh, sure it has.
Where when guys weren't making money, they were getting hateful things said about them, threats toward them. And it's a different era, as you said, where people just aren't going to care in the same way about professionals, right? And you can maybe call college athletes now professionals in the NFL or major leagues or the NBA. If you don't live up to the contract, you get a lot of criticism. Sure. If you're not winning, you get a lot of criticism. And most of these kids have never really experienced it to that level. And certainly if you go to a blue blood, it's ramped up. Hunter Dickinson was at Michigan. We now know, that they're number one seed. They're a great program now, and they've had some runs with the Fab Five and stuff like that. But overall, I would say that football dominates in Ann Arbor, right? We know it dominates. Sure. Where in basketball, it's Michigan lost 14 games, and Hunter Dickinson averaged 18 and 12. Nobody was heavily criticizing him. You come to KU as the number one portal guy, and you're seen as this savior for the bigs with Bill Self, and you never got out of the round of 32. Yeah, there's going to be some criticism, and no, nothing should ever go too far. But I have seen a lot of people today, mainly because they just did not like that KU team whatsoever.
They did not like him.
No,
that's for sure.
And to hear that there were guys that were basically wishing for the season to end and get back in the portal. I mean, that is the unfortunate part now where, with some of these tournament runs, Frank, most of these guys are going to go to different schools next year, no matter who you are.
Absolutely, especially if it's a kid from Hawaii who all of a sudden he's a sophomore or whatever he is and turns it on. Next thing you know, he's got 20 coaches beating down his door. And the other thing about it, too, is gambling. Gambling is a big deal. You got a college kids are putting $20 down in their favorite team, and the big star comes up short or cramps up or whatever and can't play. And I understand physical things, and I think it's great that he came out and started talking about the full body cramp thing that we didn't know about. but it's still a situation where before they knew, they're going, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
I've got $20 on this game, and now you're not there." And or he comes back. Oh, I'm going to put $20 down, and he's back, and then they lose by 10, and he doesn't do anything. I mean, it's a transfer portal, it's the NIL, and it's gambling. And these kids are all paid, and they're all pros to whatever level it may be. It's the level you play on, and so it's really interesting. The other interesting team to watch for me will be Miami of Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
Now, everybody's watching the play-in game against SMU to see how they do, to see what kind of fluke was this. I know their schedule was ridiculously easy, but to go undefeated through that whole time and then finally get beaten, they still made it in play-in game, but they made it. So it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Before I get off this, because I got it wrong earlier, I wanted to make sure I got this right with Hawaii, because I know you referenced them again.
Yeah.
I finally got the starting five here. 7 foot, 6'9", 6'8", 6'6", 6'3".
Oh, God.
Here's the other part to this, where I was bringing up this unique defense. Mm-hmm. They don't play a help defense.
Oh, really?
With that size, does that not surprise you that with that size, no help defense, it's all, right. I'm assuming it's not just face guarding, but it does not matter, and that's why I would pick. See, with these matchups, you have a guy like Darius Acuff making a lot of money, going to be a top 10 draft pick in the NBA. Do coaches change their game plan, or do you say we've made it this far in this game plan? I mean, can you really trust somebody on Hawaii to go one-on-one with Darius Acuff the entire game? That's why it's like in the tournament. Do these coaches, especially more so at the mid-majors here, do you have to change your game plan defensively or what you do offensively to tailor it toward the team you're playing? Mm-hmm. Or is it, hey, we're not going to change who we are now, right? It's if we don't do a help defense, we're not doing a help defense no matter if this guy's putting up 50 on us. It's not how we play defense and bringing somebody over and leaving somebody open for a corner three or a three from the wing. That's why I imagine they do this, because they don't want to leave somebody wide open. Then again, if somebody's getting just blown by over and over again, you might have to make that adjustment. That's what I find fascinating about the tournament, is these smaller schools and playing the upset. Is it we play our style, or is it we got to change it up if we're going to have any chance of beating this team?
They might practice the change, go in with a game plan, and if this kid has 30 at halftime, we might have to adjust at halftime and go back and try something else, although I don't think they probably have anybody on the roster that can keep up with them. I don't think very few teams in the country have somebody who can keep up with them. But just because of their size, you just don't think they're going to be able to move that well, especially with a kid like that, to try to guard a kid like that.
Miami of Ohio, real quickly before we move on to our first break here and come back with Frank's opinions, 31-1. They lose in their conference tournament to Frank Martin, of all coaches as well, of UMass, and they have to sweat it out a little bit. They're in the first 4 game against SMU, who, by the way, basically got into the tournament with a couple of buzzer beaters earlier on in conference play. They had a half-court buzzer beater. They had a wild 3-point buzzer beater not long after that. So it's not like SMU has been riding high and then collapsed late. With a team like Miami, Ohio, what side were you on when it came to the debate of, they're outside of 350 in Ken Palm or whatever it was. They haven't played anybody. And I always took it as they're not loaded like Gonzaga in their conference where, yes, they should run the table and only lose 1 game. Miami of Ohio, as we saw in a lot of these games, were not much different than their competition, yet they just found ways to win. I get it's usually a one-bid league, but I was going to be pretty upset if they didn't get in, because the storyline alone was important to me. Yeah. If they lose by 35 to SMU, we have our answer. If you would have left them out of the tournament, we would have never known if their 31-1 was for real or if it was totally fraudulent because they weren't playing anybody.
Yeah, no, I like the fact they're in. I think they did enough to go undefeated that entire time and lose then in the conference final. And I just go, give them a shot. Let's see. I mean, they're not going to the Final Four.
No.
Don't worry about it. Although you go on the other side, and there was a team that they knocked out. Okay, there was a team that didn't make it that they got in ahead of. And that's the other side of the coin. You feel bad for that team. I'm not even sure who that team is. but I'm sure we could probably try to figure out what those.
I mean,
what
Auburn
the
or
but probably Auburn.
Nobody really had.
Who wants to see another SEC team anyway? Right, Curtis?
I'm good with no more SEC, especially Auburn.
Nobody had a really good enough resume. That deserved. To me, this is one of the first times I went, wow, nobody I really wanted to get in got snubbed.
Right.
Miami of Ohio. If I was coaching or playing or a fan of Miami of Ohio, I would simply say, why the hell are we playing this conference tournament? Why even play the regular season if somebody who has 12 to 13 wins? I mean, even Ole Miss, who lost 20 games, was an overtime win away from playing in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
And that probably would have knocked Miami of Ohio out if they would have gotten in by beating, I guess it would have been Arkansas and then Vanderbilt in the SEC championship. But I'm glad they're in. You're glad that they're in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that won't be the last time we're talking about Miami of Ohio for the rest of the show. Let's take a quick break here, come back, and go to Frank's Opinions on the program.
All right, the La Feta Delicatessen, end of the hour answer. What school has the most first-round losses as the number 4 seed? Obviously, that goes back to 1985. Most losses as a 4 to a 13. There are 7 teams that have lost at least twice. One team has lost 3 times.
Do you have a guess, Frank?
No, I was going to say something like, because Kurtis is doing it like Missouri, something of that nature.
Missouri is was 0-1 as a 4.
Okay.
87.
All right.
They lost.
I feel bad to do this to our good friend Todd Lebo, but how about the Sooners of Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
Oh, boy.
1-3 all time. Their losses, the last one was in 2001 to Indiana State. They also lost in 95 to Manhattan and 92 to Southwestern Louisiana.
Ouch.
Other teams who have lost at least twice, UCLA, they're 4-2. Indiana's 2-2. Virginia 2-2. Arizona 2-2. Kansas State 1-2. Vanderbilt is 0-2. The K-State losses, UC Irvine back in 19 and LaSalle back in 2013. They beat LaSalle, oddly enough, in 88, so that's odd. KU's only loss is to Bradley in 2006. By the way, I looked this up. The last time Nebraska was in an NCAA tournament game was just 2 years ago. They lost to Texas A&M by 15. Only, what was I looking at? I don't know why I highlighted these 2 games.
I didn't think about it.
They've not generally been close games. They lost by 15. They lost by 14, 9, 10, 14, 21, 5, and 8. So only twice, I don't know why I highlighted these. Only twice in those previous 8 games have they been the higher seed.
Yeah.
They lost as a 6 to an 11 and lost as a 3 to a 14 back in 91. So this is the first time they've been, I think, a considerable favorite since at least 91 or at least 94. This is just the third time in their stretch that that's more of a, not that they've been a bad tournament team. It's just they haven't been a good enough team to get favorable matchups in the NCAA tournament. And I would guarantee they've never been a 13.5-point favorite before in an NCAA tournament game, at least not since 91. So by all expectations, that streak's going to end
Good.
in this year, and it should.
Good.
And they'll join the ranks of teams who have won a game. Will they party? Will they party hardy?
Are they the last Power 5-ish school to not have a tournament?
I think there might be one other.
One more? I don't know. We'd be here all day thinking about that.
Yeah, that's you've just given me something to look up.
Throw it into
you know me.
Another
well.
trivia question.
You know me well. People shoot me things like, dude, I kind of want to look at this, and I don't really have the wherewithal to figure out what it is.
Right.
I'm like, oh, you came to the right guy. I think it was it was Price Carter. Our friend Price Carter asked, hey, if the Chiefs do sign Kenneth Walker, how many teams have had 2 former Super Bowl MVPs? And I went, oh, you came to the right guy.
Yeah, that's
Because
a great one.
Something this nerd would definitely like to dive into for
you need those questions
an hour.
For what you do.
And I did, and I found out there was more than we would have thought. But he's like, if anybody ever wants me to look up something, don't think you're imposing.
Yeah, a couple times I've been, Kurtis, I hate to do this to you. And Kurtis is like, what is it? What do you got?
Oh, yes.
They're always so well thought out, too.
Yeah. I don't mind.
I can never get good trivia questions.
But there are sometimes people say, hey, how can you look this up? I'm like, there's no way with normal, research tools I can look up.
It's a good bar bet.
But still, if you have any questions, email me.
Yeah.
Kurtis Seaboldt at 810WHB.com or hit me up on Twitter and just kind of ask me. I love to look for
and he will give
fun
you credit.
Stuff. Yes.
And it'll be a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and I'll usually, if I'm doing something, that's something I can do while I'm watching this game. All right, here we go. Frank opinions. Where does Kansas's season end? First or second round? Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, or National Championship game?
I have them getting beat by St. John's. Where is that? That is the
round of 32.
That's round of 32. I'll say round of 32.
I'm going.
So first or second round? Yeah, first or
Yeah,
second
I'm
round
sorry.
is
That's
one.
what I meant. Yeah, first
my
or
bad.
second round. Yeah.
So I'm going to say Sweet 16.
63% said first or second round. 28% said Sweet 16. About 4.5% said both Elite 8 or Final Four national champion. All right. Where does Missouri season end? First round, second round, Sweet 16, Elite 8 or later?
I'll say second round.
I'll go first round.
46% said second round, 44% said first round, 8% said Sweet 16, 2% said Elite 8 or later. How many of the 9 SEC teams advanced to the Sweet 16? I will tell you that 3 of them are top 4 seeds, so playing the seed would get them there. How many of the 9 teams actually advanced to the Sweet 16? 3 or fewer, 4 or more?
I'll say 4 or more.
I got to catch up here. I'm going with 3 or fewer.
75% said 3 or fewer.
Stop it, Jack. You're supposed to lose every time. Stop.
How many of the 7 Big 12 teams advanced to the Sweet 16? 4 of the 7 are 4 seeds or higher. 3 or fewer, 4 or more.
3 or fewer.
I'll go 4 or more.
59% said 3 or fewer.
Ooh. Not as high on the Big 12, I guess. Either conference.
I've got 3 of them in the Final Four.
Yeah, no kidding.
Only those 3.
Well, I initially made it 4 or fewer, 5 or more.
I was gonna say, I thought mine was gonna be a slam dunk.
It was like 95-5, and I was like, I got to move that number a little bit. National champion will come out of what region? East, that's the Duke region. South, Florida. Midwest, Michigan. West, Arizona. I just give you the 1 seed so you know what region I'm talking about. East, South, Midwest, West.
West.
Number?
It's our first time.
Number means that you
no,
both
I'm
were
going to
right.
say. I'm going to say.
Four choices. Remember.
Yeah, I'll go 46%.
45.
60.3.
I was thinking about going higher too, but then I thought about the 4 answers.
Yeah,
I know.
right.
23% said East with Duke. How many 1 seeds will make the Final Four? 1, 2, 3, or 4? I didn't use 0.
2.
I'm going to say 2 as well, actually.
Number?
I'll say 45%.
I'll go 40.
49.2. 38% think 3. First number 1 seed to lose will be Duke, Florida, Michigan, Arizona.
First number 1 seed to lose will be, well, I'll say Michigan.
I thought about Duke for a little bit because of the injury. I'll say Duke because of the region and the injury to their point guard.
It's actually Florida.
Okay.
Number?
Wow. 31%.
32.
47.7.
Why?
27% said Michigan.
Why?
23% said Duke.
Hate?
I guess they don't.
Florida has been dominant, aside from their loss to Vandy.
Yeah, I think they just think Duke and Michigan are
Maybe it's the back-to-back.
yeah.
Welcome to Frank Opinions.
No,
Jerry.
seriously. I mean, talk about being awful at this game.
How many brackets do you fill out? 1, 2, 3, 4 or more?
I'll say 2.
I'm going to say 3.
It's actually 1, which is the correct answer, by the way.
Okay, I'll say 45.
46.
53.4. 31% said 2. I saw somebody post, you fill out 1 bracket. Nobody cares what you do in your 13th bracket. Stop
Exactly.
That is fair.
it. You do 1. Will a Kansas or Missouri player be featured in one shining moment? Yes or no? Like, will they just appear in the montage, winning or losing?
I'll say yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Number?
90.
Oh, 80. Under 89.
52.8.
They have
That
no
video's
hope.
long as hell.
There's no hope. No hope.
So we just don't think. I mean, here's how it happened.
Yeah.
Kansas, no matter what they do, they'll have one of them either looking depressed if they lose or emphatic if they're in the Final Four. Mizzou, they just have to beat Miami, I think, to be in, because it can be showing the elation of winning one of the tournament games. 50-some%
52.
to be left
Right.
out completely.
Even if they make it to the
With
St.
2
John's
different
game.
teams.
The song is like 5 minutes long, is it not? If you're not included,
it'd be Bill with Rick.
Dayton,
Bill and
Ohio's
Rick.
Dayton, Ohio's going to have tons of. It's going to be 30 seconds worth of what the playing game is tonight.
You heard the first time that song was played was the '87 Final Four. Do you know what it was originally intended for, though?
Oh, was it the
I've used this before.
Was it the NBA theme song? It was somebody else's theme song.
It was going to be a montage to play at the end of CBS did it at the end of Super Bowl 21. That was the Giants and Broncos. The Giants' first
So it
Super
was
Bowl
gonna
win.
be
It was
an
intended
NFL.
for that, but they didn't have production-wise. They didn't have it ready to go, so
So
they
it was
held
an
on to
NFL
it.
deal,
Yes, and it was used in the Final Four in '87. Written by some guy on a napkin while he was sitting in an airport waiting for a flight. He wrote the words down.
He's famous too.
Yeah.
Who's the?
I don't know if he's a
who
famous,
did the music? It was.
I don't know who.
Doggone it. He's.
Was it a famous composer?
Yeah, he's a famous guy. He's a famous songwriter.
I didn't know
Music and
that.
songwriter. Yeah, I'm
But
pretty
the guy
sure.
who wrote the lyrics was just sitting. A guy who's just sitting in a bar.
Just sitting in a bar somewhere.
And they've had various guys. I mean, the Luther
I forget.
Vandross one is the only one that really matters.
Yep.
I mean, they should just use that one forever. R.I.P. All right, let's see. Who were you rooting for last night? Venezuela or Italy?
Italy.
I think it's going to be Italy as well.
Number?
Mine? My turn? Or Jack's?
I don't remember.
I think it's your turn, Frank.
My turn? Okay, I'll say, oh boy, I'll say 60.
50.
82.6.
No love for Michael and Salvi.
Yeah, when did he change his name, by the way?
Who? I don't know.
Okay.
Kurt Nelson
Or the
let me know that
pronunciation.
he's runs the Royals Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
He's
right. Maybe it was
official
always
poobah.
Michael, and it's just the way it's spelled.
He's sitting in their 2026 media guide. It says Michael. So
Okay.
we'll figure it out.
All right.
When does Kansas State make its first NCAA tournament under Casey Alexander? Next year, 2028, 2029 or later? They don't.
This guy's won everywhere he's been, so just for fun, I'll say next year. Just for fun.
I'll say second year.
2028? Mm-hmm. 39% said 2028. 22% said 29 or later. 21% said next year. Casey Alexander will win blank NCAA tournament games as K-State coach than Jerome Tang, compared to fewer, same number, more. Tang won 3.
They'll want to say more.
I'll say fewer.
39% said fewer, 38% said more, 22% said same. And the last one, have you seen 2.1 pounds of marijuana? Yes, no, or dude.
Hey, how about no comment? No. I've never seen 2.1.
I'm going off what the people are going to vote for. I'm going to say dude.
Actually, it was no was 75%. I was depressed. I was a little let down by...
I like the answers.
although someone answered, Pete says, what are you, some kind of narc?
I was hopeful. I know I didn't win any of those.
Not only that, 2.1 pounds, vacuum packed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. This close to the tournament, man.
I grew up in Raytown. I had never saw 2.1
How
pounds.
about when it first all the stuff came out? He was.
we
gonna
couldn't
play.
afford it.
He was going to play.
Yeah.
17 points a game, and that's probably it for his college career.
Yep.
That's a lot of pot, I would say. Okay, let's take our second to last break here of the second hour. When we come back, what in the world, Seren, but I guess Jack on the program.
All right, here we go. What in the world, Jack? Queen's University is in the NCAAs for the first time. Where's Queen's University?
New York.
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. I thought it was really interesting. They asked
Uh-huh.
that question. These guys going, well, it's got to be in New York City. No, it's not.
Nope.
What movie won the Best Picture Oscar?
Sinners.
One battle after another. Best Actor?
Michael B. Jordan.
Yes. Best Sound?
Oh, no.
Come on, this is easy.
Best sound. Oh.
Come on. Brad Pitt.
Okay.
F1. And who's visiting Villanova in June?
I'm assuming you.
The Pope. Come on now.
Nice.
The Pope will visit.
One of five? If I
One
get
of
two.
five's not bad.
Okay,
It's usually
I'll take it,
4, but I gave
20%.
you a bonus.
That's usually what my scores were in high school, too. All right, Sam McDowell next.
All right, Kansas, one of 3 programs to be in the NCAA tournament for at least the 20th straight season. Name either of the other 2. Brought to you by La Feta Delicatessen.
Hour number 3 of the program begins with Sam McDowell in studio. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Seren Petro, Kurtis Seaboldt, Kyle Collier here as well. Big thank you to Frank Bowl, who just gave me the hardest 5 questions I've ever received before.
I think they're just 4.
4? That's how hard they were. I don't even. Yeah. They seemed like they were.
It felt like there were 5. It's like when you're playing a team. God, they're so good
fire.
defensively. It feels like there's 6 guys out there. Those were so bad. It felt like there were 5.
First he beats me, in Frank opinions.
Yeah.
And embarrasses me.
You guys tied, actually. So
we tied.
Friend's going to be happy with your performance.
Okay. I remember the last time I played Frank, it did not go well. I was still kind of figuring out the rules of the game.
You started off slow, but you found your way back.
Late start. Just like, was it Apollo Ono in speed skating?
Yes.
Yeah. If you ever get that
correct.
reference, yes. Yeah. Start slow, catch up late, get gold.
I haven't heard that name since he last competed. But
yeah. Well, now you know I am a big speed skater fan, at least of one person. But I'm also a big fan of the guy sitting.
You might be the only person who's ever said that
on the air.
Words.
I can take pride of it. Clip it, Kyle. Clip that
in this room.
Apollo Ono.
I'm a big speed skater fan.
Get like the last 30 seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also a huge fan of Sam McDowell. Sam, thanks for joining us in studio.
How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
This is a conversation you didn't think you'd wander into, is it?
He thought we were going to be talking Justin Fields, Kenneth Walker, the NFL draft.
Nope.
Really everything.
Apollo Ono.
Mm-hmm. And this will be the first and only time that probably happens. But I actually do, in all seriousness, want to get your thoughts on the move from yesterday. We talked a little bit about it with Justin Fields. Was this a move more so about what the first month of the season will look like, where Patrick Mahomes might not be available and they don't want to fall back on, well, let's go get Gardner Minshew, let's go get Tyrod Taylor? I mean, Patrick Mahomes has never really had a backup quarterback who still could maybe start for some teams out there. They've usually been guys at the end of their career or trying to catch on. Justin Fields, the former first-round pick, he was not good last year for the Jets. He was not very good for Pittsburgh, but he has a little bit of explosiveness that Gardner Minshew didn't have, Carson Wentz didn't have, Matt Moore, Chad Henne didn't have any of that. Was this more about the first month of the season where he might not be there and they want to have a dynamic quarterback like that, or is it we've always liked him and now we can get him for a cheaper price with that 6th-round pick?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think they anticipate having Mahomes back for week 1, so I think, this is kind of funny. I mean, the move they made yesterday, the guy they actually traded for, ideal scenarios, you don't play him.
Yeah.
But I do think they could use him, and I actually think they could use him even when Mahomes is healthy. And I know that's weird to say, like other situations where you pull off one of the best players in the NFL, perhaps the best player in the NFL, off the field. But I've been wondering for a while what the Chiefs are going to do in short yardage next year. And it hasn't been a talking point for 2 years. The only reason it hasn't been a talking point is because they were so good at it last year. They were the second best short yardage team in football last year, converting 72% of their 3rd and 4th and 1 or 2 to go plays into first downs. But it's because Kareem Hunt was a cheat code on short yardage. He had 34 first downs in those situations, more than double every other running back in the league. And if you include quarterbacks, Josh Allen had 20. I mean, he still was like lapping the field in that. And the plays where Kareem Hunt did not get the ball, the Chiefs were just 58% on short yardage, which would have ranked 25th in the NFL. So Kareem Hunt's going to be 31 in August. Understand there could be some reticence to want to re-sign a 31-year-old running back who probably can't do a whole lot else other than that. I think that's a really valuable thing. And so it prompted me to look into, like, what's Justin Fields in that area, and he's really good in that area. He was like 12 of 14 running the ball on 3rd or 4th and short last year. It's 85.7%, actually a little bit higher than what Kareem Hunt's 85% was. 1.33 first downs on short yardage per start, most among all quarterbacks in the league. 7 of 8 on quarterback sneaks. There were a couple guys who were perfect on sneaks, but my point is, like, if they want to use him, they could find a use for him. And I understand, like I said, the hesitancy, and like when you use him in that role, it's like 3rd or 4th down and you're deciding to pull Patrick Mahomes off the field.
Yeah.
Like that'd be a weird sight. And like I get that. But I'm just saying, like, when you take the best player off the field, that's one thing. But when you leave the best player on the field, you're taking the most successful play in football off out of the playbook because you're not using the quarterback sneak. And the Chiefs were one of only 3 teams in the league that did not use a quarterback sneak last year. Half of the league attempted at least 10 of them. And of those half, which I don't think this is like causation, but it was weird to me that the 8 teams that attempted the most quarterback sneaks all made the playoffs last year. I think that's just a happy stat more than actual causation. But the 10 teams, like their success rate was 77% on or the half the league, the top half of the league that ran at least 10 quarterback sneaks is 77% success rate, which is crazy good for short yardage, and the Chiefs just refused to run that play. And I don't think that Patrick Mahomes coming off a knee injury, like they're suddenly going to say, hey, let's put that play back in our playbook.
Yeah, it's the other way probably.
Is this a scenario, too, where bringing in someone like Kenneth Walker automatically increases the value of someone like Justin Fields, where if you bring in Justin Fields and he's out there and Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt is the back next to him, his best attribute, using his legs, might not be as effective because you're not worrying about him giving the ball to Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. Now, we saw the Chiefs hand it off out of the shotgun maybe far too many times last year, where if you do have that spot in the red zone where it's 3rd and 1, and let's say Kareem Hunt's not back, but you got Kenneth Walker and you got Justin Fields, is that maybe that premier package of, look, if I'm a guy coming off the edge, both of those guys can be explosive enough to get into the end zone, or if it's not at the goal line, let's say they're at midfield, either of them could break free for a 50-yard run, where last year Pacheco or Kareem Hunt was not doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it actually prompted me, and I wrote about this yesterday to look further into that. And, Breece Hall was really good on 3rd and short last year. This is a really bad offense, by the way, that suddenly is good in like this specific area. With the Jets. And one of the reasons they're bad is because Fields could not throw the ball last year, but one of the reasons they're good at short yardage is because Fields was really good with his legs. And Breece Hall was great on short yardage. And I think it's because of that, the combo of having to defend both guys who you think are potentially explosive with their legs. And so, and this is all going to be small sample size, but Breece Hall carried the ball 9 times on short yardage in the games that Justin Fields was also in. 48 yards on those and a touchdown. So 5.3 yards per carry and short yardage with Justin Fields. In the 7 attempts without him, 7 for 15 yards, just 2.1 yards per carry. So I think it definitely, Fields doesn't just potentially convert 3rd and short, but if you've got an explosive guy next to him, it opens some things up for him, and vice versa, too. I'm sure one of the reasons Fields was good at short yardage is because he had Breece Hall standing next to him, too.
And I haven't really looked at it, but just hearing it, more than 5 yards per carry on short yardage seems pretty amazing. Because your design isn't to get 5; it's to get whatever you need to get.
Yeah, and I also think though, because you have the ability to hit a home run, that makes you more likely to just get the one that you need.
Exactly.
And that's what the Chiefs ran into so frequently last year. It's why Kareem Hunt, I think it did an incredible job at that, is because I think on 3rd and short, there wasn't a lot of fear in the home run. And so, he ran. It was the only time that the Chiefs would ever face stacked boxes was when it was short yardage and teams anticipated the Kareem Hunt run. They knew what was coming. The Chiefs telegraphed it, and it was still successful because he was really good at that. But, if you
they weren't
have
afraid
the
that one was going to turn into 50.
Yeah,
if he breaks
or in any
containment,
situation,
he gets to.
In any situation.
Yeah.
That's the way we saw the Chiefs defended all year. So, I think just the ability to have some explosion there. Now, we also didn't see Mahomes use his legs a whole lot on 3rd and 4th and short, even outside of the quarterback sneak. That was a pretty critical component of some pretty critical plays that they've had. I remember just 2 years ago, when they beat the Bills in the AFC Championship, it was a lot of design runs from the quarterback on short yardage. The year before, when they beat the 49ers to repeat as champs, the 4th down play in overtime is a design run for Patrick Mahomes. Wasn't a lot of those in their playbook a year ago, and I think part of that is, to what Jack said about just the inability to respect the other guy standing next to you.
How much of it's become almost the point where it's when the legend becomes fact, print the legend, the old story. How much of their reticence to run the sneak is directly resulting of the injury, and how much is that, or has that just become a legend? And
no, I think that's it. 100%.
Think that's it?
Oh yeah.
Does that strike you as kind of amazing that's 6 years after it happened, they're like, yeah, we're not doing that again.
Yeah, and it is them more than the player. But look, I mean, I get it because first of all, I think it is a fluky thing. I don't think he'd be more likely to sustain that injury than any of the other quarterbacks who are running that. I mean, Jalen Hurts is probably the most likely guy to get hurt in the quarterback sneak just because of the way they run it, and it invites contact in a way that I don't think the normal quarterback sneak has the same amount. But like, go through even the unlikely scenario that he gets hurt on like a quarterback sneak. I mean, I think they would be like, again.
Yeah.
You ran that again.
Right.
You needed 2 of these to learn your lesson. So I kind of had thought that maybe we'd see it in a bigger game, like that 4th down I mentioned in the Super Bowl, just because of the sheer shock of it. Might work even better because of that.
But I love the thing about that 4th down play in the Super Bowl is if you look back, they ran an almost identical play to that earlier in the game, going the same direction, and they saw Nick Bosa just totally jumps inside. They had him both times they played him that year. I mean, then again the year before, they had him spinning in circles because they knew he's going to crash, and he did again the second time. It was just an easiest 1st down imaginable. Same thing happened. We're getting a little bit off topic here, but the same thing happened on the touchdown drive at the end that won the game. The little quick throw to Kelsey.
Yeah.
He jumps the swing pass, and he's engaged with Kelsey, and he sees the back come out, and he just jumps. He dumps Kelsey and jumps the swing pass, and he went bloop right there. So I don't know. Anytime I could get a chance to put a boot in the ribs of Nick Bosa, I don't mind.
Yeah.
But particularly when it talks about how well the Chiefs handled that type of player.
And that is another facet that we saw leave the Chiefs' ability to when they ran the ball last year was like they. Look, I mean, you don't want your running back just always thinking to bounce it outside, to not go where the play is designed to go. But Isaiah Pacheco's mindset was to hit the hole so quickly, whether that was actually the hole that developed or not, that I think defensive ends could crash against the run once the ball. Now, they didn't really respect play action, so they did wait till the ball was handed off. But once it was, I think, it really crowded between the tackles runs. It's just, given where the makeup of the Chiefs offensive line should be, where they're really good.
Yeah, and his Walker's ability to plant a foot and break it outside will make it easier for him to run inside as well.
Yeah. I mean, he was actually one of the most successful between the tackle runners a year ago, even though he does spend so much time behind the line of scrimmage.
Sometimes his plays up the middle between the tackles end up being outside because when he gets through, he can break it out. We saw that twice or once. One of the 2 big runs in the Super Bowl was a play in which he sidestepped a guy, hit through the hole between the tackles, and then immediately cut to the outside and used his speed down the sideline. Yeah. That hasn't been here for a while.
When looking at the running back room now, bringing in Kenneth Walker, Amari DiMercado, is it going to be a case where last year's running back room was so ineffective where even the slightest improvement, it's going to feel drastic? Because at the end of the day, Kenneth Walker was 16th in rushing among guys last year in the league, but then you get the deep run, you win the Super Bowl, he is performing at the highest level in the NFC Championship game, in the Super Bowl, so obviously his name becomes much larger than, let's say, someone like Devon Achane in Miami, who Miami was rarely in it for the majority of this year. Is it going to be if he runs for 1,000 yards exactly next year, it's going to feel so refreshing because they only got whatever it was 440 from Pacheco? Or is it going to be he's really going to have to be this explosive, dynamic playmaker in all facets for it to really be noticed in this Chiefs offense?
Yeah, I think the actual way you'll notice his effectiveness isn't necessarily in his numbers. It's more like how our defense is playing the Chiefs. I think you could notice his effectiveness even more in just the passing game being more open than it was a year ago. I mean, the Chiefs faced the highest percentage of light boxes in the league, so they faced the most defenders laying back in the secondary. And I asked Andy Reid about it after the season, and specifically in that stat, because that's sort of how I measured the way teams were playing, and he measured it based on play action. And he said he always looks at play action and what are the linebackers doing, and he just flat out said, he said they didn't bite this year. And so I think if you've got a running back that can even make, like, your play action numbers could improve. Those aren't going to go on the back of, you know, Kenneth Walker's football card, but I think that could. When you look at the ways to improve the offense, I think the natural thing is to think, okay, get a number one receiver, get better, protect better up front. But I really think just like having the threat of a running game, making defenses actually fear the consequences of playing only the pass, could open up the passing game in even better ways than another weapon for the passing game would.
Does DeMercado maybe close the door on Kareem Hunt, or is there so a spot where you go, hey, let's bring back Kareem Hunt for short yardage? That does make things interesting with Brashard Smith, because I'm not sure they'd want to carry 4 running backs.
Right.
What does DeMercado bring, and is he moving anybody out?
Yeah, I still think like that's more to me like a training camp story to see how that develops, because, I mean, the running back that the Chiefs signed for a pretty reasonable price a year ago, Elijah Mitchell, he had a training camp that I didn't think he should make. I didn't have him on my 53 to make the team, and obviously he made it, but hardly dressed, and just had basically zero impact. So I want to see how that develops, because, you know, you mentioned Brashard Smith. I think the fact that they will try and make him the primary kick returner gives him another role to where maybe you could squeeze 4 running backs on your roster if you feel like one of them is also returning kicks, if you feel like maybe in a pinch he could play in the slot or something like that. I think he's got some different roles to him, but I do think the short yardage is a real thing, because when I mentioned these stats with Justin Fields, you know, I'll be clear about that. I don't think that's the way the Chiefs will go with him. I think it's the way they could go with him, but I don't anticipate that they're suddenly going to be playing Justin Fields on a lot of third and shorts, in which case, like, you are losing a really valuable piece of an offense that we talked about, the offense struggling. That's one area where they did not. Like I said, they were second in the league in short yardage, and Kareem Hunt actually finished 6th among all running backs in expected points added. Like, that's how significant it is just to be able to move the chains. And like, if you don't have that, you know, I mean, Kenneth Walker was taken out of the games on third downs with Seattle. I mean, Charbonnet played third downs for him. So I don't know that I right here on, you know, March 17th would say that I look at the Chiefs running back room as being complete.
Then Travis Kelce's the other addition in the same week. They get Kenneth Walker, of course, and bringing him back for, I guess at bare minimum, one more year. We've had this conversation before when the season was still going on, and then shortly after it, that it just did not seem like he was going to come back. Even with as poor as the season ended, he was going to call it a career. And nobody would have been upset by that decision because of what type of wear and tear he had gone through over the last couple of years. Do you think in his mind that it was more so of just he was upset about the season, he always planned to come back? Or do you think there was a moment in the offseason where Travis Kelce said, no, I do have to change my mind now. I got to give it one more year because my career is not going to end with a 6-win football team and me not even catching passes from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is he went into the year thinking that could be it last year. And I absolutely think the way that the year unfolded influenced his decision. When did that influence his decision? I mean, the Chiefs were out of it with 3 games to play, you know, literally, you know, they were seemingly out of it for about the last 5 weeks, maybe. I mean, when they went into that Chargers game, I mean, they had to have so much go their way. It just so that's at least 4 games that you play not thinking you're going to make it. My point in saying that is he had time to sort of comprehend what the finality would have looked like if he hadn't, if he'd gone out that way. So my guess is late in the season it probably hit him. And there was definitely, I think. And I was trying to describe it this way late in the season, like going into the year, I thought it was like 90-10. That was probably his last year. And I think you got the feeling, you know, I remember leaving the locker room in Vegas and turning to a coworker and saying, I think he might be back next year. And I don't know that I would have said, I think he will be back, but it just seemed like more of a possibility. And I definitely think he was influenced by just how poor it went.
I thought that influence, though, based, particularly when compared to, in addition to the previous year, was why I thought he wouldn't come back. I think I was on Sound Off the week after that, and I thought what this year would have taught him. I think he came back last year because he didn't want to go out in a Super Bowl blowout. And what last year taught him was that you don't get to choose how you go out, and it can be worse. And that because things didn't go well, he's like, you know what, I don't. It's up in the air. I'm about to go to another area of my life. It's going to be amazing. Like the looking for the storybook ending on the field, he's going to have a storybook ending off the field. That's your storybook ending. That he'd walk away from that. It was because it was so bad that I thought he wouldn't want to come back. As what's next year going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. First of all, I don't know that he would view the possibility of it being worse. Just because I think so many small things went against the Chiefs that led to their record, that I don't know that he looks at that, thinks it could be worse. I don't think it's just the record. I think it's just the manner in which it finished as well, with the last 3 games, and Chris Oladokun throwing passes to you, and I think
don't want my last pass in the NFL to be a worm burner from.
Yeah, I mean his last 3 games he had like 50-some yards combined,
and it wasn't even old. Who was the guy who came in?
Bouchel
came in. Yeah,
Shane Bouchel throwing one at my feet. That's not how I'm walking out.
Yeah, and I also think that I mean, it's a real thing that I mean, I wouldn't characterize how Patrick Mahomes he's really close with all of his childhood friends too, but like in that locker room, I mean they've been tight for so long, and my guess is that has some sway with Travis Kelce as well, and wanting to be there for him and not bail when this thing got really hard this offseason.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an element I hadn't considered. They really are. It is Batman and Robin. I mean they do kind of feel almost responsible for each other, and I've always felt that that's a role Travis Kelce has always taken, is I'm always going to have that guy's back. And I think the biggest point that I saw that was at the end of that second Bengals AFC Championship game when he came in and did the Burrow had my ass, this is Mahomes' house. And that was one of those things where, like, he says the thing that he knows Mahomes would probably like to say, but he keeps him out of the fray. He's willing to be the guy to go, like, this is the truth. I think he's always kind of considered himself as being that guy for Patrick Mahomes. And so I guess in retrospect, it really isn't surprising that he would want to one more time have Mahomes back by coming back in a year in which he's going to face an uphill struggle. I had not considered that dynamic, but that's a good one.
All right, let's take our first break here in hour number 3. When we come back, after all of these moves so far, what are the Chiefs going to do in the first round of the NFL Draft? Let's find out next on the program.
All right, the La Feta Delicatessen, end of the hour answer. And by the way, I was true to my word last Friday, even though we were down at the Big 12 tournament downtown. I said, I'm going to be there a little later than usual on my Friday, but I got there, got the Queen, fantastic. If you don't know, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you should know. La Feta Delicatessen. Kansas, one of 3 programs to be in the NCAA tournament for at least a 20th straight season. I asked for either of the other 2. And officially,
Michigan State?
Michigan State,
Gonzaga.
28 straight.
Gonzaga?
26 straight.
I was going to say Gonzaga.
Well done.
Nice.
Kansas 36 straight, although the NCAA vacated the 2018, so I don't think they officially view it that way. But, I mean, I remember 2018. I saw the games. They were in the Final Four. So, to me, it counts. Vacated
I think
all
Kansas
you
fans
want.
would agree with you.
They played the games. And this is a Mizzou guy talking about that. Don't be stupid.
It is funny when it comes to vacated wins and vacated titles. I know they did it. We talked a little bit, or at least I referenced the Fab Five earlier in the show with Frank. People, I don't think, really acknowledge it because, as you said, you witnessed it, you watched it. Louisville too, when they beat Michigan. Like, I don't look back and say, "Well, I actually give it to Michigan."
Reggie Bush won the Heisman.
Yeah,
I don't care. I saw the games. He won it.
yeah.
Shut up.
I think it's this. It's supposed to be a harsh penalty, but I just don't know if any of the players or the coaches, the fan base really acknowledge it. Like, I'm not even sure you insult or hurt a fan base if you say, "Well, I don't count it. It got vacated." It's like, no, you kind of forget that it was vacated to begin with. But I did see the other day with one of those tweets of consecutive tournament appearances, and they had to put in the asterisk.
Saw one last night. They didn't include it. I was like,
Yeah.
Bill Self's like, oh, what?
I mean,
So-
you'd almost have to get like the Men in Black little device. It's like we remember.
Yeah,
We were there.
Pretty sure they lost to Villanova.
Yeah.
Was not a game I hated watching, I will tell you.
Hell, that was. I think they ended up with how many threes too? 17.
See, people say
500.
Mizzou hasn't made the Final Four, but there you are.
That's our Final Four.
You've
Our
had,
Final
you've
Four
had
is
several Final Four teams to root for.
our Final Four is watching having to watch Kansas lose.
Well,
I'm not proud of it, man, but and I've always said
the point
it's
of
not,
rivalries. Hate watches.
It isn't, and it's there's too much made of that. We don't, at least I don't. It isn't a celebration. It's a relief. It's like, oh, good, they don't get another one.
Yeah, I mean,
Because all we ever hear about is how many Final Fours we've made to. I don't want any more. So to me, it's like there is no better relief, a feeling of relief in the NCAA tournament than good, Kansas isn't going to win it all again.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank
you've
you.
got 67 favorite teams going into this tournament, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one real one, but like 66 others.
Mm-hmm. Although I if I could draw it up perfectly, because if Kansas loses on Sunday, well, it's not college basketball season anymore, and we're diving deeply into. I like to still talk about college basketball from a local, but I don't want them to go to the Final Four.
Give us
So
one more week for both
I
teams.
If I could draw it up perfully for Kansas as an Elite Eight loss every year, it gives
Okay.
us 2 full weeks
I
of
don't know
talking
if
about Kansas.
I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't know if I believe that you're gonna be rooting for KU on Friday and Sunday.
No, because the fear of them going to a Final Four still exists. But if I could exactly say, here's what you.
If you knew
whatever
they're
you
gonna
want to do,
you knew they're gonna lose in the
Yes.
Elite Eight, you'd root
I'd
against
lo-
some of
yes.
the other.
But yeah, I
if
would
I could
say
plot it out, I'd say Elite Eight loss every year. That'd be fantastic.
honestly, you being a Mizzou fan, I think that there's a good split.
Or Sweet 16, but Elite Eight allows you to talk about it on the following Monday too.
Yes, with this office too being very split when it comes to Kansas and Mizzou, it wouldn't be like, no, I'm not going to root for Mizzou. I think the way that it gets said is, as a station, we want these teams to go far because we get to talk about them more. But I don't think, like, as a Mizzou fan, I don't think you should ever be caught saying you would root for KU in any sort of game. Wouldn't be the right way to go about it.
The only time I've rooted for Kansas to win games was toward the end of the 2022 season, because we knew that the 1 seed, if they got the 1 seed and they were locked in a very tight battle, we wouldn't have a show
I was going to say that does play a factor.
on Thursday. So I was like, come on, go Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. And then they got the 1 seed and they went and won the national championship. And I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
I knew Kyle was going to do that.
That didn't work out the way I thought it would.
No, hate watches
I'd
are a
much
real
rather
thing.
have worked that day than watch them hoist another banner.
None of us are above a hate watch, a good hate watch.
And And it's just it's the fan thing that bothers me. To me it's impossible to not like Bill Self. I mean, there's like, damn it, I wish that was our guy.
Especially from a media perspective. I mean, sometimes we'll just throw the story right at you.
Any way you want to measure the likability of a coach, he hits it out of the park, and which is great. But it also is like, why does the coolest dude that around? Why does he coach successfully my school's number one rival? But it's impossible. If you talk to the guy for 10 seconds, you're like, I like that dude.
That is the beauty, too, of working in sports media. Is from afar, you can hate a coach, you can hate a player as much as you want, but when you actually get to talk to them, it changes your perception of who they are. Because many of us, if you just turn on the TV and the NFL, if you watch somebody that looks like a you-know-what and behaves like a you-know-what, you're not going to like him.
I mean, this is his 23rd season at Kansas, and he's talked to a lot of people in a lot of high-pressure situations. Has he ever blown it? I don't.
Like blown a gasket at the podium?
Was he ever just like, that wasn't good? I mean, how many times in 23 years have you heard Bill Self say something that he's like, he shouldn't have said that? Never.
Yeah, I mean,
it's unbelievable how good he is in those situations.
I don't disagree. I think this year has tested him in new ways.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot to explain, and it's kind of been explaining the unexplainable with the Darren Peterson situation that I think it's put him in some really tight spots.
Yeah.
That's not his fault, but it is the circumstances which he's had to deal with this year as being, trying to offer a reason for something that really all along should have come from the player himself. And I was out at the Big 12 tournament all last week, and it did come from the player himself. And actually, my reaction to that was when Darren Peterson explained it: is why now? Why not a month ago? Why not 6 weeks ago? Why not 2 months ago? I mean, I don't think anybody heard what Darren Peterson said about going through a full body cramp before the year started and blamed the player for it. I think a lot of them probably walked away saying, man, that sounds incredibly painful.
Yeah.
I can understand why you would fear that happening again. I could understand how that would get in your mind whenever you feel the slightest something that is this whole thing going to happen again, that you wound up in the hospital. I was really confused why he's been so quiet about that up until now. But the result of that is when he has been so quiet, it has really turned on that switch that you were talking about with Bill Self.
Yeah, it's been something. And when you don't know what's going on, people will fill in whatever they want. Whatever they want is often the worst possible situation.
Yeah, I mean, you let people control the narrative.
Yeah. The idea that he doesn't want to play basketball never gets off the ground if we know what he's been going through the entire year.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think that ever had a lot of logic to it, because he literally could have quit.
Yeah, right.
But it was the secondary part of that wasn't just he didn't want to play basketball. Even if you were on board saying, I think he wants to play, you could have said, but how much?
Yeah.
And you could have said, but could he fight through this? Is he being soft? I mean, those were out. Those labels were out there too, and the evidence didn't necessarily negate that. You had to trust what you were being told that was the evidence to negate it. And then he explains it, and you're like, oh, okay. Lot of sense to that, and I could understand why you've missed more games than what you would like or what any of the fans would like. And like I said, I mean, we talked here a lot about the fact that I had always said, even Bill Self a few weeks ago had said, there's a couple ways to stop the narrative. Is to play. He said play. You got to finish games, and he even said, that's not, his body hasn't completely allowed that, but play. And I had said, but there's two ways to stop the narrative: play or explain it.
Explain it.
And I do think that the narrative would be a lot different right now if he had gotten in front of this in a different way.
I do think it's interesting because I remember when Self said that, and he said it twice in the same, and it wasn't, if my memory is correct, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah. She never is whenever it starts a sentence like that.
Usually, if I'm not mistaken. He kind of brought that up, that how to change the narrative thing. It wasn't, hey, how can he change the narrative? It was in the middle of his answer. I told him there's one way you can stop it. That's play. And then he came back around, and I think he said it a second time, and I was like, he's making the point pretty strongly. he's defending his player, but he's also saying, "Hey, man, there's a way out of this."
Yeah,
and that's to play.
And he has. I mean, he's finished the last 7 games now.
Now that's kind of been removed from the idea of will he play? Looking out for him with the stuff on his lap.
Yeah.
That's kind of gone away right now.
Yeah, and it's what's funny though is, to me, for a long time that was kind of a crutch for how we viewed this KU team. Is well, you don't know what you're going to get out of the star player, and for the longest time it was they're pretty good without Darren Peterson. Wait till he's healthy. And then it was okay, or wait till he's back, and then okay, he's back. Okay, but wait till he's really healthy. You still haven't fully seen him. He doesn't have the explosion now, but now he's been back for 7 games,
and they're still
KU doesn't look good.
They're still kind of a middling team.
Yeah, and so now like what's the reasoning? Like just give him more time. Like you're in the NCAA's now,
Yeah.
And I mean he's shooting over the last 7 games. He's shooting 36%. And this is something else that piqued my interest as I was out there. That Houston game is the guys around him don't play well when he's on the court. And I don't know whether they're still getting the feel for what his role is in all this, because it's not inserting, your 3rd leading scorer, your 4th leading scorer. You're inserting your best player. And
he wasn't just the best player; he's a dominant.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
force
clear
when
and
he's
away.
playing.
Yeah, far and away the best player. That's a good distinction. It's an important distinction in all this, but. As I'm out there in that Houston game, Flory Badinga is doing like nothing in the game. He ends up scoring 5 points in 32 minutes. I shouldn't say doing nothing. He's always a presence defensively. But offensively, very limited in that game. And it's the 10th time this year he's been held to 10 points or fewer in a game. 9 of those have been when Darren Peterson's played. Only once has he been held under 10 points without Darren Peterson, but 9 times. And this is the crux of the question with KU is like, can the rest of the guys still be good when your best is on the floor? And when he played a string of 7 games, you would hope that would be long enough to answer that question definitively. But here they go, and they're going to play in San Diego on Friday, still not having answered that question.
It's almost an unprecedented dilemma for a team. They're in a situation where they can't make a run without him. But
I agree, yeah.
When he plays, they haven't been able to solve that riddle. And one of the other things I noticed was, Melvin Council was 1 for 14 in that Houston game.
Right, yeah.
If you look at, because one of the notions, we'll ask Gary Parrish about this next hour, the idea that because Peterson is so good, that the key to a Kansas run is he can get hot and carry the team. But that's not what has happened when he's been good this year. His top 9 scoring games, they're 5-4. Melvin Council's top 9 scoring games, they are 9-0.
Yeah.
So to me, Council's the more of the X factor than Peterson is. He's going to score. He can score in a lot of different ways. Even when he hits 3 shots, he can score 24 points, or whatever it was the other night, where he had 24 and was 35% from the field. He can fill the stat sheet. What does everyone else do?
Yeah.
And to me, that they've been at their best when he's scoring 19 and someone else is scoring 15 and someone else is scoring 14. Can they do that repeatedly?
Yeah, and what does everyone else? It's not just what they do. What do they try to do?
Yeah.
Because Melvin Council's
that causes.
His role is different, and I think like even if Darren Peterson's on the floor, he's got to still try and get downhill and get to the basket in a way that he's shied away from when Darren Peterson's on the floor. Like that's been his outlet. And he's really good. Like he's got a great floater. He throws a great alley-oop if the defense converges on him when he tries to get downhill. And like I mentioned with Flory too, like what's he attempting to do? KU ran the first play against Houston on Friday. It was a layup for Flory. That was the design of the play. It was the play that they called. They just don't throw it to him. And the ball winds up being back out to Darren Peterson up top. That's like, no, like your answer offensively is still to play offense. It's not to play like the one-on-one stuff just doesn't work as well in college as you'd see it in the NBA with a lot more space, and there's just elite shot makers, and Darren Peterson is an elite shot maker, but right now it's coming at the expense of the other guys getting good looks too.
And there are more than one way. There's more than one way to use a player of his skills. Too many people think just give him the ball and him score. But there are so many ways a good offensive system can use the fact that he's so good to get the other people shots.
Yeah.
But when they have those situations, as you just pointed out, they don't take advantage of it. Use the fact that people think he's going to take the shot and get somebody else open.
Yeah, Bill Self, to his credit, after the game on Friday, had said that they didn't do a good enough job of playing behind him. And what he means by that is the defense often, you'll see multiple guys come towards Darren Peterson. Then you've got numbers. Like, you've got 4 on 3, but KU's got to move the ball quickly, and the ball kind of sticks when he's in the game. And what you've seen the past few games that I thought would be like the sign that they're turning a corner is he's driving the ball a lot more. And I asked him that on Thursday after they beat one of the quarterfinal against TCU, and he said, I said, is that a sign of what you're being instructed to do? You feel like this is something you need to do, or is it a sign of your health? And he said it's a sign that his body is feeling better, that he's trying to go to the basket more. Like I said earlier, that's what we were kind of waiting on with Darren Peterson in order to take the next step, was the fact that his body was feeling better. Well, it's like, well, now you've got to react to that too. Like, now what does that mean? He's not making a lot of shots in the lane. Can he pass? Can he get other guys open when the defense converges on him? Like, we haven't seen them take the next step. Like, once he is I think the perception was once he feels okay, they'll be okay. He's feeling okay. They still have to figure out what that means. Now what do they look like when he's feeling better too? And it's just like a process that you'd rather not be figuring out, as you go to the first round of the NCAA tournament.
So what's the ceiling, and what do you expect?
I still think, he has, Bill Self said it a few weeks ago that he's good enough to carry a team for a few weeks. He definitely has that kind of talent, but now any optimism you have on KU is not based on like the reality of what you've seen. I phrased this in a column over the weekend that like the imagination of what they could be with Darren Peterson still outweighs like the reality of what they have been, because they haven't been great. And especially in these 7 games. I mean, they're 3-4 in those 7 games, and I don't know that you could suddenly just guess that they're going to flip a switch. I did find it interesting on Sunday that Bill Self said he gave Melvin Council the day off, that he's grinding mentally and physically. I think them playing Friday could be a help. In that situation, maybe getting bounced on Friday as opposed to losing on Saturday could be a help. You get, a full week to digest this, to try and just work on yourselves, because I think that's what KU is right now. Not as much worried about the other team as worried about themselves. But I think St. John's is going to be tough. I think that's if they get by the first round, which shouldn't be a given. Mizzou's not the only team playing at home
that's true
this weekend. Cal Baptist,
both Cal Baptist and
Mizzou
are playing the exact same distance from their campus.
Or
almost exact.
So I don't think that. I think that's a good matchup for KU though. But St. John's is going to be tough, and every game afterwards is going to be tough. And I mean, Duke, even though they're missing their point guard now, has just been really, really good this year. I think it'd be a clear upset if you're picking KU to get past Duke.
The one thing, too, before we hit our second to last break here, that I've wondered about, and it's kind of come more to fruition since Darren Peterson said the mental part of getting over these cramps that could lead into a full body cramp. I hadn't really thought about how, I guess, dramatic a full body cramp would look. Like, this happened in the offseason. This happened shortly before the regular season began. I had wondered if part of that fear, the mental hurdle, was not, I'm cramping, I'm getting hurt. It's if I'm playing against UConn on ESPN and all of a sudden I'm on the ground and nothing in my body is cooperating, a lot of pain, how that looks to an audience, right? It's one thing to say, I'm cramping, I'm going off, I'm going to sit, and now I'm going to put a heating pad on my leg, I'm going to use a Theragun. It's a totally different thing to having to be carried off the floor of a nationally televised game. That's what started to make sense with this mental part of why he pulled himself out if he felt something, because clearly that reminded him of this full body cramp that he went through. And I've never had one. I hope I never do get one. I can't imagine it looks very good. I can't imagine that isn't the most dramatic thing you could see, where somebody's entire body is like convulsing on the ground, which I wasn't there, obviously. I don't know what it looked like, but that had to have been the mental part.
Sounds uncomfortable.
It sounds terrible. ESPN.
Foot cramps are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Calf
Any
cramps
cramp.
are uncomfortable.
I get cramp when
Any cramp makes
yawn.
you like stop what you're doing. A full body cramp, I mean, in front of an entire sold out crowd, that had to have been this mental hurdle he couldn't get over until finally Bill Self said, it's not going to happen. You have to play through it, which is why I think now we've seen him finish these 7 games. It's now that mental hurdle he's cleared. It might have been like the yips, where you can't get over it until you actually do it. And it's unfortunate, but also if I was dealing with something like that, I'm not sure I would feel 100% every time something was cramping, where it could lead to my entire body going through this incredibly painful experience. But
yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's been part of the difficult thing for the viewer to figure out, is because when you think of cramps, it is an incredibly painful thing, which is why it's been clear that he's been coming out before that step, because it is more the fear of it happening, because you don't see him writhing around in pain, to your point of, that's part of getting cramps. Like, we've seen tons of athletes get cramps. Like, it looks unbelievably painful.
And smack the floor,
we've all had cramps. Like, a calf cramp is incredibly painful. We haven't seen him experience that pain, which is, I think, has long led to the logic of the fact that the fear of it has played a big factor in it.
We'll see what Darren Peterson looks like on Friday night. A late tip in San Diego. Kansas, the 4 seed versus the 13 seeded Cal Baptist. We'll take a quick break, come back, and wrap it up with Sam McDowell. Wrapping up our hour with Sam McDowell here on the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Seren Petro, Kurtis Seaboldt, Kyle Collier, running the ship as well.
How about Mizzou? We'll give them 40 seconds.
Yeah, I thought Mizzou was headed in the right direction a week ago. They're a team that also has a player that everything centers around, but they've been playing with him all year. And like this excuse just to the last couple of games, especially against Kentucky, just said, you go take care of this. And like everyone else just seems to be content with that. It's been really confounding because this is a group that's been together for since January.
As well as he's played, almost everyone else has taken a step back.
Yeah.
Jaden Stone has taken a step back.
And those were the guys that improved since January.
The point guard is both. Neither one of those guys seem to be able to play.
Yeah. The committee gave him a kiss, so we'll see if they can take advantage of it.
Need to know next.
All right, Kansas, one of 3 schools to have a 900 win percentage in the round of 64. Name either of the other 2. Brought to you by La Feta Delicatessen.
Hour number 4 of the program begins with what you need to know. And we've got Gary Parrish coming up, and coming up rather quickly.
Which is just about all you need to know.
Exactly.
Whatever questions you have, it'll probably be answered this hour.
Everything you need to know about the NCAA tournament, dark horse candidates, favorites, KU, Mizzou.
We'll ask him about K-State's new coach.
Absolutely. We're going to have all of that covered. But before we do that, for your need to know, want to give you a little soundbite from former Kansas Jayhawk Hunter Dickinson, who was on the Run Your Race podcast with Theo Pinson.
Who was on the North Carolina National Championship team in 2017.
Yes, and A.J. Richardson.
Who was just a friend of his that's involved with a lot of things like this, multimedia adventures.
Yes. And Dickinson had the chance to speak a little bit on what the season was like last year at Kansas. And I imagine many Jayhawk fans listening are not going to be a very big fan of his answers.
I mean, obviously, again, like they expect greatness, but the team was just like, bro, like we didn't even feel like we had support. Like, and it's never as bad as it seems. Like we had great support. Like Allen was always rocking, and like we had a ton of fans that were supporting us, but we also had like a ton of people who were just hating. Like we would always make the joke after we'd win a game, you'd go on Instagram and see how many comments we had.
Yeah.
It'd be like 30, 40 Instagram comments saying that. And some of those would even be like, thank God. We won. Yeah, we won a game. Whoop-de-doo. On a loss, we would have like 500
really
comments of just like
going in.
Yeah. And just like, and so for me, like it got to a point where I was like, I didn't like playing.
Yeah.
Like we would come to the gym and it would feel such like a job. Like the games got to a point where it's like, bro, I don't even want to like play right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like one of the ones that handled it better. Like, so you can only imagine how some of the dudes are feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
and you the one averaging 18 and 11. So I can only imagine, bro. I can only imagine.
And so it just got so bad to a point where like dudes were just like, yo, they were through with it.
Yeah.
They were just like through with it. They were like, yo, just hurry up and have this. Like, obviously it was my last year. So like, I'm like, yo, we gotta try to fix it. Like,
find a way.
I was trying my way, but some dudes are just like, get me out of here, bro. Ready to hit the portal again.
Yeah, I don't think it was that discreet that they didn't want to be out there. The way they lost to BYU and Utah and some of those home games, man, that goes to show you now in the portal era, there will be players, whether you believe it or not, that will just want the season to end so they can leave again.
It's hard to overstate how bad I think that those comments, just ridiculous.
Oh, those are bad.
You're taking a lot of money and you're playing at Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's part of the deal. That's we just didn't feel like playing anymore.
Here's another part
then
to this
don't
too.
Play. Then don't take the check.
The guys that wanted to hop in the portal and not wanting to play anymore, we kind of forget that DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams were experiencing their final year, and to have that little of respect for how they were going out, that's a pretty tough look there. But those were the comments from Hunter Dickinson on the podcast that he was on. But I don't imagine many KU fans were
awkward
liking that or liking him for what he had to say. Gary Parrish coming up next.